You didn't ask for this. You didn't ask to represent your family in the annual Wensleydale on Dorset Christmas pudding competition. You didn't ask to be drafted into the most passive-aggressive war in British culinary history. And you most certainly didn't ask to be caught in the middle of a pudding-based conspiracy that would soon turn your sleepy little village into a battlefield of raisins, rage, and royal icing. But here you are. It all started with your grandmother. She slammed her wooden spoon, her ancestral wooden spoon, mind you, against the mixing bowl and pointed at you like you were a soldier going off to war. "It's your turn now," she said. "The Merryweather blood doesn't boil for politics. It boils for pudding." You thought it was a metaphor. It was not. The Christmas pudding competition had been a sacred Wensleydale tradition since Queen Victoria coughed up a silver coin mid-chew in 1853 and declared it an exhilarating experience. Every year, each family submitted their secret recipe, dense, decadent, and suspiciously flammable. But in 1924, things got weird. Someone, unidentified, malicious, most likely wearing tweed, began sabotaging the puddings. At first, it was subtle. The Dobbins' famously brick-like pudding came out soft and bouncy. The Featherstone's brandy-soaked beast of a dessert tasted like bath water. And your grandmother's entry, your family's pride and joy, exploded. Not metaphorically. It detonated inside the oven, blew the door off, set fire to a tea towel. "That wasn't yeast," your grandmother growled, holding up the scorched remains of her apron. "That was industrial sabotage." That's when you realized you were in. See, Wensleydale may look charming with its cobblestone streets and aggressively polite postal workers, but underneath, it's a pressure cooker of generational resentment. 3 families have ruled this competition for decades. 1. The Merryweathers, your clan, pudding purists who believe dessert should double as a blunt force weapon. 2. The Dobbins, firm believers that tradition is best served dry, dull, and mildly toxic. 3. The Featherstones, aristocrats with too much money, not enough taste, and an alarming obsession with edible gold leaf. Every family wanted to win. Every year was tense. But this year, someone was playing dirty. You tried to stay out of it. You did. But then the village newspaper, the Wensleydale Whisper, dropped this little bombshell on the front page. Sabotage in the spice rack, tensions boil over in pudding war. And suddenly, you're being dragged into the kitchen at dawn by your grandmother, whose eyes are now permanently bloodshot from sleepless nights spent guarding nutmeg. "You'll watch the spice cupboard," she snaps. "If one more clove goes missing, I'm burying someone in the garden." You spend the day observing the unraveling of an entire social order. Raisins mysteriously vanishing from locked pantries. Sugar swapped for salt in an entire Featherstone batch. The Dobbins oven cranked to 500 degrees by an unknown guest. And still, everyone pretends it's business as usual. Carolers sing, snow falls gently, and old women exchange recipe tips with the kind of smiles you usually see in war documentaries. Then comes the emergency meeting. Held in the town hall under the portrait of Queen Victoria, still mid-choke, with forced civility and way too much tweed. Judge Penhaligon, 82, retired Navy, possibly immortal, presides over the chaos. He bangs a literal gavel. "The evidence is clear," he declares. "Someone is sabotaging this year's competition, and by God we will find out who." A beat of silence, then chaos. Mrs. Featherstone, draped in perfume and judgment, rises first. "I demand a kitchen inspection. Open pantries, open cupboards, open hearts." Your grandmother fires back without missing a beat. "And I demand she stops wearing that chemical vanilla disaster she calls perfume." Within seconds, the room devolves into genteel anarchy. Accusations fly like festive confetti. Someone references the rum raisin incident of 1902. You start fantasizing about faking smallpox. Then Judge Penhaligon raises a hand, and the room freezes. "To ensure fairness," he says, "this year's competition will be supervised by an outside investigator." Collective gasp. Flown in from London, a culinary fraud specialist, codename Cinnamon. Your stomach drops. You know that name. You know that voice. You glance at your grandmother. She looks like she's been struck by lightning, which can only mean one thing. If cinnamon is who you think it is, then this is about more than pudding. It's about revenge. That night you're woken by a sound, a sharp crack like glass, then something burning, sweet, but wrong, like caramelized guilt. You creep down the stairs, every step creaking like a confession. Push open the pantry door. On the floor, a wooden spoon, broken, a single raisin, skewered with a toothpick, and a note, tiny, handwritten, stuffed into the fruit. You're next. The note is written in red ink, or at least you hope it's ink. Your first instinct is to scream. Your second is to eat the evidence. Your third, the one that wins, is to stare at the skewered raisin and wonder, how did my life come to this? It's December 12th, 12 days until Christmas, and someone just threatened you using dried fruit. You try to convince yourself it's a joke, some twisted local tradition, but deep down you know this is war, and someone wants you gone before the final judging day. The next morning, the village wakes up to snow and suspicion. There's been another incident. The Featherstones report that someone replaced their candied orange peel with pickled onions. No one says a word, but the silent smirks in the town square speak volumes. Mrs. Featherstone nearly faints. Lord Featherstone demands an armed escort for his citrus. Your grandmother just cackles and throws more rum into the batter. Finally, she mutters, a Christmas worth remembering. Then the train whistle howls. You hear it from the kitchen, the hiss and clatter of something important arriving. Something metropolitan. You run out into the cold, still holding a bowl of currants. The snow is knee-deep. The villagers are already gathering like moths to a flaming fruitcake. The train doors slide open. Out steps a man in a tan trench coat, dark leather gloves, and a hat pulled low over his eyes. He walks with the careful calm of someone used to defusing bombs, and maybe desserts. He pauses, looks around, says one word, pudding. A gasp ripples through the crowd, because they all know. This isn't just some cook, this is cinnamon. To you, he's more than a name. He's Rupert Godfrey III, former pastry prodigy, expelled from the Royal Culinary Institute after the cherry clafoutis incident. And more importantly, your grandmother's greatest rival. They once competed together in the 1899 Royal Bake-Off. She beat him by a single raisin. He's never forgiven her. And now he's back. With credentials, gloves, and a personal vendetta, he walks past you, stops, sniffs the air. Someone here uses too much allspice, he mutters, compensating for weak technique. Your grandmother growls like a terrier. You consider biting your own tongue off just to avoid speaking. Rupert, sorry Cinnamon, takes immediate control. He declares that all pudding prep will now be monitored. No more secret ingredients. No more mystery stews. All baking must be done in the town hall kitchen under direct surveillance. The families protest, outrage explodes, but Judge Penhaligon bangs his gavel so hard it chips. This is wartime protocol, he declares. Cinnamon has executive authority. You wonder if that's an actual legal term or if this whole thing is just Victorian LARPing. Back in the kitchen, the mood shifts. Panic, paranoia, and powdered sugar. Cinnamon sets up his base of operations. A long oak table covered in magnifying glasses, spoons, and a suspicious amount of tweezers. He begins forensic analysis of pudding samples from each family. You watch in horror as he picks apart your grandmother's entry with surgical precision. Heavy clove molasses forward, slight aftertaste of contempt. He takes notes. You take anxiety pills, mentally. That evening, Cinnamon calls a town meeting. He reveals his preliminary findings. One pudding contained traces of industrial adhesive. Another showed signs of deliberate overproofing sabotage. Someone had hidden a tiny metal nutcracker inside a third, an accidental dental massacre, he calls it. The room goes silent. Then he turns to the board behind him and pins a photo, a grainy shot of the broken spoon you found last night. The saboteur, he says, left a message, a threat, which means they're escalating. This isn't about pudding anymore. You look down at your boots, the raisin note is still in your pocket, burning like guilt, but you can't speak. Not yet. Later that night, you sneak into the town archives. Yes, there are town archives. Of course there are. You search for any mention of pudding sabotage, past disputes, or known culinary criminals. Instead, you find something worse. An old newspaper clipping. 1902. Headline reads, "Young chef banned from Wensleydale Fair for spiking pudding with brandy-laced gunpowder." And there he is, smiling in black and white. Rupert. You realize something chilling. Cinnamon's not just here to solve the crime. He might be the one committing it. You rush back to your grandmother's cottage, snow flying behind you. Burst through the door, find her already awake, waiting. She's holding the raisin, the one with the note. You freeze. "You are going to tell me when exactly?" she asks. Calm, too calm, you open your mouth, nothing comes out. She nods. Then she pulls something from behind her apron. A dagger, butter knife shaped, antique, engraved. "He's back for blood," she says. You laugh nervously. She doesn't. "Not mine," she adds, and then she throws the knife. It hits the wall behind you, dead center, into a chart of the family pudding recipe. She's drawing battle lines. Your grandmother has just stabbed your family's sacred pudding recipe. Not figuratively. There's an actual butter knife lodged in the parchment scroll, pinned to the final garnish step, like a declaration of war. The ink is still fresh from the raisin-wrapped death threat in your pocket, and your heart is pounding like a wooden spoon in a tin bowl. "We don't have time for shock," she mutters, already tying her apron tighter. "They've declared war on pudding. We respond in kind." You don't know whether she means espionage, violence, or sabotage by citrus zest. All three are equally terrifying. She opens a drawer. You expect a cookbook. She pulls out a battle map of the town hall kitchen, hand-drawn, annotated, strategically labeled. The Dobbins store their candied ginger here. The Featherstones have a smuggled spice rack behind the pantry wall. And Cinnamon, he has his little shrine of bitterness right by the window. You blink. She looks at you. "We're going to infiltrate." The next morning, you're disguised. Well, sort of. You're wearing a baker's cap 2 sizes too small and an apron that says, "Kiss the Cook," in terrifying red embroidery. Your job, infiltrate the town hall kitchen, retrieve any evidence of sabotage, and plant your family's signature spice blend into the Dobbins pudding mixture. You ask if this is cheating. Your grandmother doesn't even blink. It's not cheating if everyone else is doing it worse. The town hall kitchen is chaos. Picture a 1920s war room. If everyone was armed with whisks and personal trauma. Featherstones are measuring ingredients with golden rulers. Dobbins are shouting about moral texture and pudding purity. Your cousin Edith is whispering something to a tray of currants like they're under hypnosis. Then there's Cinnamon, standing in the center, arms crossed, sniffing the air like a bloodhound with unresolved emotional issues. "Someone used French nutmeg," he declares suddenly. "Unforgivable." Everyone freezes. A single bead of sweat rolls down Lord Featherstone's cheek. You slip past the crowd, pretending to look for treacle. Your real goal, Cinnamon's table. You want to see his notes, his files, his true motive, and then you see it. A folder labeled Merryweather Incident 1899. Inside, a photo of your grandmother, young, flower-covered, victorious. Next to it, a blueprint of your house. You feel sick. He's not just investigating pudding. He's targeting your family systematically. You pocket the blueprint and back away. But too late. Cinnamon is behind you, watching. He says nothing, just tilts his head. You stammer something about checking for nutmeg compliance. He narrows his eyes. "You look like your grandmother," he says. "She had the same twitch when she lied." You twitch harder. He leans in, voice soft as icing sugar. "Tell her I remember everything. And this time I brought the real ingredients." You bolt. You make it out of the kitchen just in time to crash into your cousin Alfred. He's bleeding from the hand, holding a broken grater. "Sabotaged," he hisses. "Someone filed the grater blades dull. I was zesting and it slid, just slid." You look at the wound, you look at the grater, and then your eyes widen. Embedded in the steel is a raisin, a single rock-hard raisin, lodged so precisely that it disabled the blade. This isn't random. This is surgical. That night back at your cottage, your grandmother goes full Sherlock Holmes. She lays out every sabotaged item, Every contaminated spice, every cursed raisin, the raisin that broke the grater. She slices it open with a paring knife, inside a wire. "They're using the fruit," she whispers. "They're hiding tools inside the raisins." You laugh. She doesn't. She opens the pantry and pulls down the box. You've only seen it once before, when you were 8. It contains a secret stash of imported raisins from Spain, dried under royal sun, smuggled through the channel by a merchant who owed your family a favor. These are not just ingredients. They are weapons-grade fruit. She hands you a pouch. "If we're going down sweet and dense and slightly illegal." The next day, you arrive at the kitchen armed with your pouch and paranoia. Everything feels too quiet, too civil. Even cinnamon is humming. You make it to the Merryweather prep table and begin the final mixing. Treacle, breadcrumbs, citrus zest, sweat. And then, the raisins. You reach for your pouch, but it's gone. In its place, a bag of sultanas. Cheap, weak, flavorless. You freeze. Then, you hear it. Across the room, Lord Featherstone is laughing. Loudly, dramatically, too dramatically. You scan the room and see a glint of your pouch peeking from his coat pocket. You march over, ready to commit light aristocratic assault. But Cinnamon intercepts you. "Nice day for a duel, isn't it?" You stare at him. He smirks. Pudding's not about sweetness, it's about dominance. And then he drops a silver coin into your hand. "May the best family win." You look down. The coin is warm, engraved. It reads, "Victoria 1899, for the bitter shall rise." It's not a coin, it's a token. Of what? You're about to find out. That night, there's another explosion. Not in your kitchen this time, in the town square. The Featherstone pudding wagon is in flames. The golden ladles melted. The raisins fused into a single molten orb. In the ashes, someone leaves a message. Only one pudding will survive. The Featherstone pudding cart is still smouldering when the town wakes up. The smell of scorched sugar and aristocratic defeat hangs over Wensleydale like the ghost of Christmas violence. Lord Featherstone, wrapped in a smoking jacket and visible trauma, stands motionless in front of the ruins. His wife is sobbing into a lace handkerchief embroidered with the word elegance. Your grandmother, meanwhile, is sipping tea. "They had it coming," she says. You're too exhausted to disagree. Judge Penhaligon calls another emergency meeting. This time it's held outside in the snow, because the town hall reeks of singed pudding fat and passive aggression. The villagers are tense. Everyone's a suspect. Even the choir boys are being frisked for cloves. Cinnamon arrives late dramatically, wearing dark goggles and carrying a leather case. No one asks why. "We are no longer dealing with a competition," he says. "We are dealing with a campaign of confectionery terror." He opens the case. Inside, scorched pudding remnants, chemical vials, a diagram of flame accelerants, and, at the center, one perfectly preserved Featherstone raisin. "There was brandy in the pudding," he declares, "but someone laced it with accelerant." Gasps. More than necessary, probably staged. Then he pulls out a list. "These are the only people in Wensleydale who had access to industrial brandy." He pauses, looks directly at you. "Your family is at the top." Your grandmother snorts. "That brandy's for medicinal use." Cinnamon tilts his head. "Explosive medicine?" You raise your hand. "Isn't it more likely someone stole our brandy and framed us?" He smiles. "Isn't it always?" The town is now split into factions. 1. The Loyalists, families who believe in true pudding and suspect anyone who uses cinnamon. 2. The Modernists, led by the Featherstones, now vowing to create a flameless, health-conscious pudding experience. 3. The underground bakers, rogue villagers operating out of cellars and barns, swapping raisins in coded envelopes. You're not in any of them. You're in survival mode. Because now it's not about pudding anymore. It's about proving your family didn't start this war. Back home, you dig into your grandmother's off-the-record spice stash. Hidden behind a false panel in the flour bin, it contains black market cinnamon, a jar labeled anise, not for the faint, a vial of pure rum extract with a skull on it, A raisin necklace for emergencies. You hold up the necklace. Seriously? You ask. She shrugs. Never underestimate the power of presentation. The next day, Cinnamon announces his final twist, a blind taste test judged by a panel of neutral outsiders, 3 judges, brought in from London, a critic, a priest, and a retired military officer with pudding PTSD. The rules: each pudding must be baked on site. No substitutions, no assistance. Brandy optional. Sabotage forbidden. You laugh at the last part. No one else does. That night, you sneak back into town hall. You're looking for proof that Cinnamon's behind all of this. Instead, you find something worse. His journal. Every page is a tirade. Against your grandmother, against the competition, against British culinary tradition itself. But the worst part? One page is titled, "The Brandy Plot." It outlines the exact sabotage of the Featherstone pudding, the accelerant, the mechanism, the desired optical effect, and at the bottom, frame Merryweather's, discredit, erase, reclaim the crown. Your stomach drops. He planned it all. You rush home, journal in hand, ready to show your grandmother, but she's not there. Instead, there's a note on the table, written in her precise, terrifying handwriting, "Don't follow me. I'm going to end this. Bring the spoon." You freeze. Not a spoon. The spoon. Carved from a fallen oak during the pudding riots of 1817. Polished by 7 generations of Merryweathers. Said to stir batter and fate. You grab it. And you run. You find her in the church. Not praying. Not repenting. Confronting Cinnamon. He's standing in front of the altar, arms outstretched like some culinary messiah. She's holding a saucepan like a weapon. You stay hidden, behind the organ, heart pounding in your ears. "You lost in 1899, she says. "You lost because your pudding was soulless." He steps forward. "I lost because you cheated. You bribed the judge with mulled wine and tears." He was cold. I was emotional. "You destroyed my career." How you set a pudding on fire in front of Queen Victoria. She loved the drama. They're circling each other now, like 2 chefs in a final cook-off before the apocalypse. Then Cinnamon drops the act. His voice lowers. "This isn't about the pudding anymore. It's about legacy." He opens his coat, reveals a second pudding. "I baked it myself. No sabotage, no tricks. I want a fair taste test. Just you, me, and the truth." Your grandmother nods, reaches out. And then, the church doors slam open. Judge Penhaligon, 3 armed bakers, and a crowd of villagers behind them. "Drop the ladles!" someone yells. Cinnamon turns slowly, smiling. "Let the tasting begin." You've never seen a church this crowded. Not for Christmas Eve Mass. Not for the Queen's Jubilee telegram reading. Not even when old man Crenshaw claimed to have found the Virgin Mary's face in a Yorkshire pudding. But tonight, Wensleydale on Dorset is packed to the pews. Because tonight, there will be no hymns, no forgiveness, only pudding. Judge Penhaligon storms down the aisle, gavel already in hand, flanked by 2 terrified altar boys who have been repurposed as pudding guards. Your grandmother stands at the altar like a flour-dusted general, saucepan still in hand. Cinnamon, aka Rupert Godfrey III, is smiling with the serenity of a man who has either gone completely mad or knows something you don't. Probably both. "Explain this," Penhaligon barks. Your grandmother answers without blinking. "He challenged me to a final tasting. Just us 2, no judges, no bribes, no war." Cinnamon nods. "A duel, 1 spoon, 1 truth." There's a long, awkward silence. Then Penhaligon grunts. "God help us. Bring the spoon." You step forward. The crowd parts like a Victorian Red Sea. In your hand, the spoon, the Merryweather heirloom, passed down through centuries, used to stir everything from royal desserts to midnight revenge batches. Carved from myth, rumored to whisper if you listen closely. It doesn't, but it feels like it could. You walk toward the altar like you're delivering a holy relic. You don't make eye contact with Cinnamon. You don't look at your grandmother. You just hand over the spoon. It's heavier than it should be. Cinnamon places 2 puddings on the altar. One is his, polished, symmetrical, Smells like citrus, ambition and overcompensation. The other is hers, lopsided, charred on one side. Smells like memory, defiance and questionable rum. Your grandmother stirs each with the sacred spoon, hands it back to you. You hold it like a knight's sword. Then she slices her pudding. A thick, sticky slice falls to the plate with a thud that echoes through the church. People flinch. She takes a bite, closes her eyes. Silence. Then she opens them. "It's flawed," she says softly. "But honest." She gestures. Cinnamon slices his own. His falls delicately like a soufflé made love to a cloud. He takes a bite, smiles. Perfect, balanced, technically flawless. He looks at her. "But hollow," the villagers murmur. Penhaligon raises an eyebrow. You can feel the shift in the air, like a thunderstorm made of nutmeg and tension. Then Cinnamon turns to the crowd. "You think this was about sabotage? About raisins and brandy? No, this was about something deeper." He spreads his arms. "This town forgot what pudding was for. It became about ego, about winning. But pudding, true pudding, is chaos, emotion, burnt sugar and bruised fruit." He spins to face your grandmother. "You taught me that and I hated you for it." A beat. "But I needed to remember." You blink. Is he surrendering? The crowd starts to soften. Even Mrs. Featherstone lowers her monocle. But Judge Penhaligon isn't buying it. He steps forward, eyeing the puddings, then looks at you. "Taste them, both. Tell us what you taste." You panic. You're not a judge. You're just a Merryweather with trust issues and a spice pouch in your sock. But everyone's watching. You pick up a fork. First, Cinnamon's. The texture is flawless, moist, aromatic, but cold. Emotionally cold. It tastes like someone trying to be perfect. Then, your grandmother's. It's uneven, slightly burnt. There's a rogue clove that definitely wasn't invited, but it hits your soul like a steam train full of nostalgia. You turn to the crowd. One of them is better. But only one of them is real. You hold up your fork, point to hers, gasps. Again. Wensleydale loves a good gasp. Cinnamon smiles. Actually, smiles. "I hoped you'd say that," he says. "Now we can end this properly." He reaches into his coat. The crowd tenses. Is it poison? A pie? A pistol? No. It's a scroll. He unrolls it. It's the original 1899 Royal Bake-Off scorecard. Signed, stamped, and wrong. He holds it up. "They marked me as the winner. Clerical error. But your grandmother refused to accept it." He hands it to Judge Penhaligon. The judge studies it, nods. "She did win. Officially." Cinnamon sighs. "I spent 25 years planning a revenge for a loss that didn't exist." Your grandmother leans in. "That's the most British thing I've ever heard." Everyone exhales at once. The war is over. The puddings have been judged. The scroll has been revealed. But then, a sound. Sharp, metallic, familiar. You turn. The church doors are open. A figure stands in the snow, hat, cloak, boots, gloved hands holding a box. It's not a villager, not a judge, not Cinnamon. It's a fourth party, unknown, silent. He steps forward, places the box on the altar, opens it. Inside, a third pudding, wrapped in red silk, laced with gold thread. Attached, a card. You read it aloud. "From the Wensleydale underground, we bake in the shadows, we rise in secret, and we're not done yet." The silence is thick. The church, once filled with the warmth of brandy and long brewing resentment, is now frozen in suspense. Only the soft hiss of falling snow outside dares interrupt. You stare at the silk-wrapped pudding on the altar. It glistens, menacingly, like something that shouldn't exist, like a gift box in a horror film right before it bites someone. Judge Penhaligon steps forward, gavel still in hand. He leans over the pudding like it might explode. It might. "What the devil is this?" he mutters. Cinnamon steps in next, removing his goggles. He leans in, sniffing. then recoils. Star anise, cardamom, and banana. He spits the last word like it's a slur. Your grandmother gasps audibly. Banana has no place in a Christmas pudding. The villagers are murmuring now, nervous, intrigued. Featherstone clutches his wife. Someone crosses themselves. You reach for the card again, reading it more closely. There's more. We are the Society of Sponge. We reject density. We reject tradition. We bake to disrupt. A beat. And then in crimson ink. Next year, we take the crown. Suddenly everything clicks. The sabotage, the swapped raisins, the grater, the salt, the incendiary brandy. It wasn't Merryweather's versus Dobbins. It wasn't Cinnamon versus Legacy. It was a third force, a rogue movement. A shadow kitchen cult rising beneath the village like a sponge beneath syrup. You say it out loud before you even realize this wasn't a family feud. It was a revolution. Chaos erupts. Featherstone faints. Cinnamon hurls the banana pudding to the floor, splat, revealing that it's not just filled with spices, but notes, tiny scrolls, dozens of them. The crowd scrambles forward. You grab one. We meet by the old mill. Midnight. Bring flour. No cowards. Another. Down with raisins, up with sponge. Another. The future is light. The future is moist. Your grandmother reads over your shoulder, her face slowly twisting into a look of purest culinary disgust. Moist! This is terrorism. Judge Penhaligon bangs his gavel again, shattering a teacup someone had nervously brought from the back. Enough, he roars. This pudding is unregistered. This group is illegal. This isn't baking, it's anarchy. Cinnamon doesn't speak. He just stares at the smashed banana pudding on the floor like he's seen this before. And maybe he has. You remember something from his journal. A doodle, scribbled between bitterness and recipe revisions. A sponge cake. With eyes. You glance at him. You knew about them, didn't you? He doesn't answer, which is answer enough. Later that night, back at your cottage, your grandmother is boiling water like it owes her money. You sit at the table, the spoon between you, Cinnamon's journal spread open. The pages now make more sense. The notes about density as oppression, the margins that say things like restructure the sugar hierarchy and crumb justice now. Do you think he was one of them? You ask. Your grandmother shakes her head. No, he's too proud, too British. Then a pause. But I think he knew they were coming. You hold up one of the scrolls. Flour, faith, fire. You swallow hard. Because this is bigger than pudding now. This is a movement. The next day, all three family kitchens receive the same letter. No envelope, just flour-dusted paper shoved through the door. Withdraw from the competition, or watch your puddings fall. We have ovens in every house. We are the batter that binds. We are the Society of Sponge. Judge Penhaligon calls a crisis council. The town hall is locked, guarded, armed with spatulas and bitter old ladies who haven't trusted a yeast since 1911. You're there. Cinnamon is there. Even the Featherstones show up in full velvet mourning attire. At the center, the banana pudding box, now kept under glass, like a cursed relic. The town has never been more divided. Some demand immediate cancellation of the competition. Others want to fight, bake harder, denser, with more rum. And then there's you. You raise a hand. What if we don't withdraw? What if we don't cancel? What if we adapt? They stare at you. The Sponge Society wants to burn it all down. But what if we invite them instead? Gasps. Again. Of course. We create a fourth category. Not traditional, not technical, but revolutionary. Let them bake. In the open. Let's see if their pudding actually rises. Your grandmother blinks. Then smiles. Just a little. Cinnamon leans forward. You want to lure them out with inclusion? You shrug. We'll still win, but at least they'll lose publicly. The vote is taken. It's close. 19 to 17. In favor. The Society of Sponge is officially invited to compete. Under one condition, bake in daylight or be disqualified. The announcement goes out the next morning, pinned to every fence post and tea shop. Wensleydale Christmas Pudding Competition, now accepting 4th entries. Category experimental. Come bake, come bold, but no bananas. You wait. You wonder. Will they show? Then, at dusk, just as the town square lights flicker on, a figure emerges from the woods, followed by another and another, all in aprons, all silent. One carries a whisk like a weapon. They step into the square and one of them whispers, "We accept." They emerge like ghosts of a rejected cookbook. 4. No. 6. Wait. 12. By the time they've all stepped out of the shadows, there are 17 of them, each clad in mismatched aprons, oven mitts strapped like gauntlets, faces obscured by flour-dusted scarves. Some are young, some ancient. One's pushing a wheelbarrow full of chopped dates like it's dynamite. This is the Society of Sponge, and they've just accepted your invitation to war. Only now you're not sure if you've saved the village or invited its collapse. The town square transforms overnight. The central fountain is drained and repurposed into a pudding stage. Bunting is hung, torches are lit. A suspicious amount of nutmeg is weaponized. The Merryweathers, Dobbins and Featherstones line up with their traditional bakes. And then the Sponge Society. They arrive with no carts, no wagons, just buckets, and what looks like an experimental oven made from a wheelbarrow, 3 bicycle pumps, and an umbrella. The townspeople watch like spectators at a gladiator match. You hear whispers, "Is that sourdough starter? They're using yogurt in a pudding? Where's the rum? Where's the fear?" The head of the society steps forward. She lifts her scarf. She's no one you recognize, not a Merryweather, not a Dobbins, not a Featherstone, not a child of any known baking line, just a woman, with sharp eyes and a spoon tattooed on her neck. She speaks with clarity, calm. "We're not here to win. We're here to break the recipe." Then she snaps her fingers. The other members begin to bake. The baking starts at 6 a.m. The town smells like sugar, ambition, and unresolved family trauma. Each family prepares their pudding under intense surveillance. Cinnamon leads a rotating patrol of sniffers, samplers, and one old man with a nose so sensitive he claims he can smell sabotage in the raw batter. You mix your ingredients with hands that shake slightly, not from fear, from pressure. This is no longer about pudding, it's about history and flavor, and whether tradition should be followed or flambéed. Across the square, the Sponge Society moves like a single organism. No talking, no measuring cups, just instincts, splatters, whispers of "trust the batter." You're horrified and weirdly impressed. Cinnamon paces near the experimental oven. He sniffs the air, frowns. "They're activating the gluten too early," he mutters. Then, or maybe they're not. He's unsettled. You can tell. For the first time since he arrived, he doesn't understand the recipe. Midday, disaster strikes. The Dobbins pudding collapses, not metaphorically, physically. The top caves in like a Victorian scandal. Steam erupts, currents scatter. Old Mrs. Dobbins screams like someone stabbed her with a ladle. Judge Penhaligon rules it pudding abandonment. They're disqualified. The Featherstones immediately erupt in smug celebration, until they realize the Sponge Society is using their brandy, stolen. Boldly, poured right into their experimental citrus-burnt sponge bomb. Lord Featherstone turns red, then green, then he faints again. By sunset, the bakes are done. 16 puddings line the judging table, 4 from each category, all awaiting judgment. But the Sponge Society, they present only one singular, chaotic dessert. It doesn't look like a pudding. It looks like a science experiment gone soft. It's jiggling, slightly, and it smells like rebellion. Judge Penhaligon clears his throat. Final round tasting begins. The judges start with the Featherstones. It's gold-covered, flambéed, served with a tiny edible napkin. Reaction, polite chewing, mild praise, a note about style over substance. Then, the Merryweathers, yours. Your grandmother watches you from across the square, her arms crossed, her stare unblinking. You cut into the pudding. It's dense, rich, Dark as a coal mine at midnight, the spoon barely makes it through. The judges chew, their eyes widen. One cries, another slaps the table. Judge Penhaligon coughs, nods and says, "Tradition, in its purest, heaviest form." Applause, then silence. The Sponge Society steps up. The leader cuts the pudding. It doesn't slice, it tears. Like fabric. Steam escapes. It smells like cinnamon, lemon, and war. The priest judge crosses himself. The military officer leans in. The food critic grins like he's about to commit a crime. They take a bite. Then, nothing. No reaction, just stunned chewing, followed by laughter. Laughter. The critic wipes a tear. "It's horrible," he says, then grins wider. "But it's alive. It's saying something." The priest just nods. "It challenged me, spiritually." The officer taps the table. "Approved." Gasps. Applause. Outrage. Your grandmother whispers, "This is how the empire falls." Penhaligon stands. He clears his throat, raises his gavel. "We have our scores." The crowd hushes. The Featherstones, 7. 5 the Dobbins disqualified, the Merryweathers 9.2 the Sponge Society, 9.2 a tie. You blink. The crowd explodes into noise. A tie? With them? The leader of the society steps forward, raises her whisk. "We didn't come to win," she says. "We came to be counted." She turns to you directly. "You invited us. You challenged the tradition. So now, what comes next?" Before you can answer, boom! The square shakes. Everyone turns. Cinnamon's experimental oven, the one he left unattended, has ignited. Smoke, sparks, a plume of flour like an apocalyptic dust cloud. In the chaos, someone yells, "The recipe vault! It's gone!" You spin around. The vault, where the winning recipes were being stored, has been emptied. All of them, yours included, gone. And scrawled on the door, "You can't copyright flavor. SOS." You stand frozen in the smoke, staring at the message scrawled on the recipe vault. "You can't copyright flavor. SOS." The air reeks of burnt sugar and rebellion. Judge Penhaligon is yelling something incoherent about national security. Cinnamon is trying to shovel flour off his boots while pretending this wasn't his fault. The Sponge Society? Gone. Disappeared into the fog like they were never real. And you? You're holding a half-eaten slice of your pudding while watching centuries of culinary legacy vanish into thin air. Your grandmother storms toward the vault. She stares into the empty chamber like she's just witnessed an assassination. Because she has. They didn't just steal recipes, they stole history. 30 minutes later, the square is in full lockdown. Barricades are erected, spoons are confiscated. The choir boys are drafted into a search patrol. Someone suggests calling the Home Office. Someone else suggests summoning the Queen. Cinnamon is pacing in tight circles. He's sweating rum. "This wasn't about pudding anymore," he mumbles. "This was about information, intellectual flavor theft." He turns to you wild-eyed. "They're going to publish them. All of them. Every guarded secret, every technique. Your grandmother's pudding, Featherstone's flambé, even the Dobbins' disgrace of a dough log. You flinch. Because he's right. The Sponge Society didn't want the trophy. They wanted the power. And now they have it. Back at the cottage, your grandmother has gone silent. She's sitting at the table staring at an empty mixing bowl. Her apron hangs from the chair like a flag of surrender. You've never seen her like this. You place a hand on her shoulder. She doesn't move. Then she whispers, "That recipe was the only thing I hadn't lost." You try to reassure her. "You still remember it, don't you?" She looks at you, eyes hollow. "It wasn't just mine. It was ours. It belonged to 7 generations. And now it belongs to everyone." She sounds broken. But then she stands, slowly. "No." She walks to the pantry, pulls out the emergency spice box, removes a jar labeled Midnight Mix. "If they want revolution," she says, "we'll give them a sequel. The next day, the village is quiet. Too quiet. No carols, no cinnamon steam, just people whispering about the theft, the sabotage, the future. Cinnamon calls a town hall meeting. This time, it's personal. He slams a new folder onto the table. The Sponge Society has published the recipes. Illegally in a pamphlet, a manifesto, circulating through underground bakeries as we speak. He holds it up. On the cover, a whisk impaling a crown. Title, The Crumb Shall Rise. Inside, Your Family's Pudding. Annotated, altered, rebranded as Merryweather Dark Sponge, Liberated Form, Featherstone's Flambe, Gold Class Pudding, Decolonized. Even the Dobbins Dry Log, reimagined brutalist dessert for those who deserve pain. The room erupts. Mrs. Featherstone faints again. Mr. Dobbins punches a pillar. Your grandmother just sips tea and says, "They forgot the third spice layer, the fools." That night, you gather in the Merryweather kitchen, the whole clan, cousins, aunts, uncles with jam under their nails and trauma in their eyes. Your grandmother slams a bowl on the table. "We're not fixing the old recipe, we're writing a new one." Someone gasps. She continues, "This isn't about tradition anymore. It's about proving we're not relics. We evolve." She looks at you. "You started this, you end it, you'll be the one to bake it." You blink. "Me?" Everyone nods. Even Edith, who hasn't spoken since the sponge uprising began. She hands you a bag of brandy-soaked currants. Make it count. The plan is simple. 1. Craft a new pudding, one no manifesto can replicate. 2. Enter it in the Renegade Bake-Off, a rogue competition hosted in a barn by someone named Spatchcock. 3. Beat the Sponge Society at their own game. The new recipe is wild. 3 types of rum. A core of molten caramel. A crust made from crushed family heirlooms, just the tasteless ones. A garnish of candied revenge. You work through the night, flour flying, fruit soaking, cinnamon watching silently from the shadows like some weird Christmas owl. At dawn, the pudding is done. It glistens, it hums, it quivers. Your grandmother touches it like it's a newborn. It's hideous. I love it. The barn is packed. Underground bakers from around the country. Tattooed grandmas. Ex-pastry chefs. A man who claims to have infused his pudding with electricity. And the Sponge Society. They're waiting. Their new creation sits in the center of their table, a levitating sponge pudding held aloft by fans and ambition. Cinnamon nudges you. "If this explodes, I want credit." You nod. Then carry your pudding to the judging table. A hush falls. Spatchcock, who is wearing a cape made of tablecloths, steps forward. "Final round. Show us who you are." You hand him a spoon. He takes a bite. Then he chokes, gasps, cries, applauds. Everyone stares. He stands. "I don't know what this is," he says, "but I want to fight for it in a war." The Sponge Society looks stunned. You look at your grandmother. She smiles. Then Spatchcock clears his throat. "We have a winner." And just as he's about to say your name, the barn doors explode open. A figure appears in the smoke. Tall, coated in powdered sugar, and holding something, a 5th pudding. Voice like thunder. "This isn't over." The smoke curls into the rafters. The barn falls dead silent. Even the experimental pudding with the electric frosting stops humming. Everyone turns. All spoons freeze mid-air. Because the man in the doorway, coated in powdered sugar, holding what appears to be a pudding wrapped in black velvet, isn't just any baker. He's wearing a red velvet suit, a waistcoat, spats, and a monocle. No one recognizes him. No one dares speak, until he does. The name's Plumley Rosecroft. Algernon Plumley Rosecroft, former head of pudding intelligence, exiled for flavor treason. You whisper it before you realize. The 5th pudding protocol. Your grandmother inhales sharply. Cinnamon's monocle fogs. Even Spatchcock's cape deflates slightly. Because he's a myth, a ghost story passed between generations of pastry patriots. The baker who went too far, who attempted to fuse all pudding styles into one. And vanished after the 1890 bake collapse that left 5 judges flavor blind for life. And now he's back, holding his creation. He steps into the barn, and the floor creaks like it's nervous. "You petty factions have turned pudding into politics," he announces, surveying the crowd. "But while you fought your flavor wars and I perfected the ultimate hybrid," he raises the pudding. It's pulsing. It changes color in the light. The scent keeps shifting. Rum, citrus, grief, victory, almond. "I call it the null pudding. No tradition, no rebellion, only evolution." Someone faints, possibly Edith. Your grandmother crosses herself with a ladle. Spatchcock stammers. I didn't know we were expecting outside entries." Plumley Rosecroft smirks. "You weren't. But pudding chooses its moment." He places the null pudding on the judging table. The table creaks. Your pudding quivers in fear. Even the Sponge Society looks rattled. Their leader approaches cautiously. "You can't just crash a bake-off, there are rules." He raises an eyebrow. "Says the woman who used poppy seed confetti." "Touché." Cinnamon steps in. His voice is quiet, calculated. "You shouldn't be here. The Bake Council banned you. You're a culinary outlaw." Plumley Rosecroft leans in close. "And yet here I am, and my pudding's hotter than ever. You want to protest. You want to shout, 'This was our fight.' But you can't stop staring at the null pudding. Because it's doing something no pudding should, it's levitating. Just slightly." Spatchcock coughs. "As head judge, I can't deny an entry that demands recognition. We will proceed." The barn holds its breath. Each of the 4 puddings is tasted again. Yours. The Featherstone-flavored rebellion. The Society's sponge sphere. The mutant with citrus nerves. All earn gasps, praise, a single high five from a German judge who appeared out of nowhere. Then, the null pudding. Plumley Rosecroft slices it. It doesn't cut. It folds, like time. Steam rises. There are whispers in it. He offers a piece to Spatchcock. The man takes a bite. His pupils dilate. His mustache curls. He recites a poem he didn't know he'd memorized. "My God," he whispers. "It tastes like regret, and victory, and Christmases I haven't had yet." Someone screams. It's unclear if it's fear or joy. The scores are tallied. Everyone waits. The Society of Sponge looks nervous. You feel your grandmother's hand squeeze yours. Cinnamon counts the cards. Spatchcock reads, "Sponge Society, 9.2. Featherstones, by force, 8.9. Your pudding, 9.6. Null pudding, 10 gasps again. But this time they hurt." Plumley Rosecroft bows. As it was foretold, the 5th pudding reigns. You step forward. "You didn't play by the rules." He shrugs. "There are no rules in flavor." You grit your teeth. "You stole this moment from us." He tilts his head. "Or maybe I elevated it." Outside, a blizzard starts. The barn doors fly open again. Snow rushes in. A courier bursts through. "Emergency telegram from Buckingham Palace." Spatchcock rips it open, reads aloud. "Heard rumor of null pudding. Dispatch sample immediately. Queen intrigued, also bored." There's a ripple of chaos. The pudding, your pudding, sits ignored. The crown wants his. And just as Plumley Rosecroft accepts the sealed velvet box to send to the palace, your grandmother does something unthinkable. She kicks the table. Your pudding and his collide. Splat, sizzle, fusion, flour, steam, sugar, and then silence. Everyone stares. A single swirl remains on the table. Neither yours nor his, but both. Spatchcock gasps. A 6th pudding, and you realize the real winner. Might be a blend, but before anyone can taste it, the power cuts out. Blackness. Then a voice in the dark. "This pudding must be protected." The 6th pudding vanishes. Stolen. Again. You stand in absolute darkness. The only sound, heavy breathing, a dropped spoon rolling in slow, tinny circles, and someone, probably Spatchcock, whispering, "Oh no, and not again. The 6th pudding is gone, not fallen, not destroyed, stolen." One moment it was there, a glorious swirl of tradition and chaos, your pudding colliding with Plumley Rosecroft's culinary abomination, to create something transcendent. The next vanished, like it knew it wasn't safe here, like it chose to escape. The barn is thrown into chaos. A match flares, someone screams. Spatchcock is running in circles with a tea towel on fire. Your grandmother is barking orders like a general mid-battle. Seal the doors, check the exits. No one leaves until the pudding is found. But it's already too late. By the time the gas lamps are reignited and the smoke clears, the culprit is gone. So is the pudding. And scrawled into the icing sugar dust on the judging table is a single word: liberated. An hour later, you're huddled in the remains of the tasting barn, cold, crumb-streaked, furious. Plumley Rosecroft is pacing like a caged bear. His monocle is cracked. His pride is shattered. That pudding, it was the singularity, he says. The moment where sponge, tradition, revolution and madness finally harmonized. It was perfect. Your grandmother glares. It was ours, he nods. Yes, it was, and now it's everyone's. He looks at you. Congratulations. You've just created the first open source pudding. You feel sick. Not just because you haven't eaten in 14 hours and the only available food is a bitter gingerbread man from 1912, but because he's right. The sixth pudding wasn't just a dessert. It was a movement. Later that night, you're back at the cottage. Cinnamon is at the window, muttering into a napkin like it's a spy radio. We need to establish flavor containment zones. I want checkpoints at every tea shop between here and Sussex. If that pudding goes viral, if it reaches a scone, that's the end of balance. You collapse onto a chair. Your grandmother pours you tea, strong, black, slightly bitter, like her. You did good, she says quietly. You made something that changed things. You shake your head. But we didn't win. We didn't even get to finish. She nods. Exactly. She stands, walks over to the fire, and pulls out an old iron box. You've never seen it before. She opens it. Inside, pages, handwritten, bound by a ribbon made of faded bunting. Your great-great-grandmother started this book, she says. Every Merryweather added something, a tweak, a flavor. A disaster worth remembering. She hands it to you. Now it's your turn. You open to the last blank page and begin writing. December the 20th, 1924. The sixth pudding was born in chaos, stolen in silence, and remembered in crumbs. It tasted like truth, and lemon, and betrayal, with notes of nutmeg. I don't know who has it now, but I know this. Pudding is no longer safe. It's free. The next morning, the town is buzzing, not with carols, not with cheer, with rumors, whispers of sightings. A pudding slice mailed anonymously to a bakery in Liverpool. A sugar trail found outside the British Museum. A child in Dover reportedly cured of gloom after licking a spoon that tasted suspiciously like yours. Spatchcock publishes an emergency newsletter. The pudding is loose, protect your recipes, trust no one, bake with eyes open. Then comes the letter, delivered by hand, wax seal, no return address. You open it. Inside, you started something, we'll finish it. The sixth pudding is safe for now, but if you want it back, you'll have to bake for it. Christmas Eve, midnight, the old railway station. Come alone, bring your spoon. SOS. You show it to your grandmother. She smiles. Not the warm kind, the kind that usually precedes someone flipping a table. They want to play, she asks. Then let's give them a final course. She reaches for her apron. You reach for your coat. Cinnamon loads what appears to be a pudding-shaped tracking device into his suitcase, and as you step into the snowy night, you whisper, "This time, we're getting it back." You arrive at the old railway station just before midnight. The snow is falling sideways. The wind howls like a disapproving ancestor. The platform, once bustling with holiday travelers and wartime regrets, now lies abandoned, just rusted rails, flickering gas lamps, and a faint scent of licorice. In your pocket, the Merryweather spoon. In your chest, a heart beating like a timer on a fruitcake bomb. You're alone, just like the letter said, but you know better. They're watching. You step onto the platform. The wooden planks creak beneath your boots. A crow stares at you from atop a frozen timetable. It nods once, ominously. You're not sure if that's symbolic or just aggressively British. The letter said to come alone, but what it meant was, come unguarded. Come willing to negotiate. Come knowing they have what you made, and you have something they never could, legacy. Then you hear it, a low whistle, not from a train, from the shadows. They step out in pairs, 6, then 10, then 20, the Sponge Society. Every member dressed in black and white checkered aprons, carrying spatulas like ceremonial blades. Some have flour on their faces like war paint. One is wearing a top hat made entirely of gingerbread. Intimidating. Their leader approaches. She's calm, collected, smiling like someone who knows they have all the raisins. We didn't think you'd come alone, she says. You shrug. I didn't. You tap your coat. The spoon glints. She smiles wider. We have the 6th pudding. We've kept it safe, nourished it, let it ferment. You flinch. That pudding wasn't yours. She raises a brow. Wasn't it? You baked it from rebellion and tradition, from a collision. It was born from conflict, which means it belongs to everyone. The others murmur in approval. You step forward, then let everyone decide. Christmas Eve, one final bake-off. No judges, no sabotage, just truth. Batter to batter, you, us, and the 6th pudding. She pauses, considers. If we win, we keep it. We publish it, worldwide. No secrets, no royalties. You nod. And if we win, it stays protected, passed down, preserved, not trademarked, just ours. She tilts her head. Deal. You hold out your hand. She takes it. Her fingers are cold. Smell faintly of cardamom. Then she steps aside, motions toward the back of the station. You follow, through rusted doors, down a flight of stairs, into an underground kitchen. Yes, they have an underground test kitchen hidden beneath the platform. Stone walls, cast iron ovens, an actual proofing chamber made from a disused coal closet. In the center, a glass case. Inside it, the 6th pudding, still intact, still glowing faintly, like a holy relic. You feel your throat tighten. It's real, and it's better. They've fed it, let it evolve. The crust is deeper, the interior, layered, complex. It's become something new. And for the first time since this began, you wonder, what if they're right? The leader steps beside you. We didn't steal it, we set it free. This pudding isn't meant to sit on a shelf, it's meant to grow, like us, like flavor itself. You hesitate, then speak, then prove it. She smiles. Tomorrow night, Christmas Eve, the Iron Bake Arena. One round, one fire, one winner. She hands you a card. It's scorched, smells like nutmeg and tension. Admit one, final bake. Venue, Iron Bake Arena, formerly the Methodist Gymnasium. Time, midnight sharp. Attire, aprons and courage. You nod. And as you turn to leave, she says, one more thing, you won't be baking alone. You freeze. She steps aside. From the shadows, a figure appears. Tall, wrapped in wool, flour-dusted, cinnamon. You blink. You joined them? He shrugs. I've studied every pudding this country's ever known, but none of them ever made me feel anything until that one. You step toward him, angry, betrayed, confused. He holds up a hand. I'm not against you. I'm just baking without borders now. And with that he turns, disappears into the steam. You emerge from the station an hour later. Your grandmother is waiting by a lamppost. She hands you a thermos of hot custard. How bad is it? You look at her. They have the pudding, and cinnamon, and an underground kitchen. She sips. Then we have work to do. You nod. And in the snowy silence of Wensleydale, with your spoon in hand and war in your heart, you whisper, let's bake. Back at the cottage, your grandmother doesn't say a word. She lights the stove with more force than necessary, slams down her iron mixing bowl, and begins unpacking her arsenal of forbidden ingredients. Rum aged in secrecy, cloves smuggled from Gibraltar, and a tin of emergency nutmeg labeled simply, "Do not use," unless they use cinnamon. You try to speak, but she cuts you off with a look that could ruin dough. "He joined them?" she asks. You nod. Cinnamon's baking for the Sponge Society now. She exhales. It's less disappointment and more scalpel-sharpening focus. Then we're not facing rebellion anymore, she mutters. We're facing heresy. She walks to the corner of the room, lifts a floorboard, and pulls out a wooden box you've never seen before. It's carved with the Merryweather crest, a spoon piercing a crown. Inside, 7 broken whisks. One is charred, one is bent, one is melted into the shape of a question mark. You blink. What are those? She doesn't look up. Whisks from failed bake-offs, ones we lost. Not because our pudding was wrong, but because the world wasn't ready. She places them on the mantel like war medals, then turns to you. We need a new team. By noon, the word has spread. Wensleydale on Dorset, once a village known for mild manners and aggressive lace doilies, is now an armed camp preparing for the Iron Bake Arena. You and your grandmother set out through snow and paranoia, recruiting from the shadows. First, cousin Edith. She hasn't spoken since Block 3, but when you say experimental Christmas bake-off, she whispers, I still have the sugared truffle cannon. She's in. Next, Uncle Bertie, retired caramel sculptor, known for creating an edible replica of the Prime Minister and accidentally biting off his nose during the unveiling. He's reluctant at first. I promise never to temper chocolate again after the mousse incident. You show him the manifesto. He cracks his knuckles. Get the sugar thermometer. One by one the team forms. Aunt Hyacinth, master of citrus balance and vengeance. Nigel from the butcher's shop, smuggles vanilla pods inside pork deliveries. Jenny with the eye patch. No one knows her deal, but she once folded 400 egg whites in under 5 minutes while quoting Shakespeare. They are your assembly of the broken whisks. They meet in your grandmother's kitchen, elbows bumping, flour flying, the scent of purpose in the air. You spread the battle plan, diagrams of the Iron Bake Arena, known weaknesses in sponge architecture, Cinnamon's preferred whisk angle, leftward spiral, slight arrogance. You light a candle under a raisin, symbolic. We bake not for medals, not for glory, but for integrity. They cheer, quietly, respectfully. This is Wensleydale, after all. Meanwhile, the Sponge Society prepares too. Rumours leak. They've discovered a method to suspend puddings mid-air using egg foam and magnets. Cinnamon is developing a new spice blend called Ego Dust. Their experimental pudding has 42 layers and whispers insults to lesser desserts. You try not to panic. But then, on the eve of Christmas Eve, you find something on your doorstep. A single spoon, cracked, tied to it, a note. You're out of your depth. Bake if you must. But know this, the pudding has already chosen. You show it to your grandmother. She reads it, then tosses it into the fire. We'll let the pudding speak for itself. She returns to stirring, faster now, like it's the last pudding she'll ever make. On the morning of Christmas Eve, the village transforms again. The Methodist Gymnasium, long abandoned after the Great Taffy Pull disaster of 1918, is now the Iron Bake Arena. Torchlight, bleachers, brass bands warming up their clarinets. The announcer's booth is installed above the old baptismal pool. Spatchcock takes his seat, wearing a fur-lined apron and a crown made entirely of crushed meringue. The crowd pours in, thousands, from nearby towns, from bakeries across the country, even a delegation from France. You see them whisper, "Is this the year the pudding breaks free?" You and your team arrive in formation. You carry the batter bowl. Edith rolls the citrus mortar. Jenny, with the eye patch, sharpens her whisk on a whetstone. Across the arena, the Sponge Society stands silently. Clad in matching black uniforms, Cinnamon at the center, he sees you, smiles faintly, then turns away. The rules are simple. Each team must prepare one pudding, one bake, live, before an audience, before each other. Before truth itself, there are no time limits. Only this: the pudding must be tasted by the people. The pudding must be remembered. You step into your baking quadrant. The bell rings, and the baking begins. It starts quiet. Butter softens. Fruit simmers. Steam curls upward like prayer. But soon, noise, roars, chaos. Cinnamon is already whipping a foam into unnatural height. The Sponge Society's batter glows faintly, as if charged by science or sin. You stick to the plan. Your team moves like clockwork. Nigel delivers the vanilla. Hyacinth zest bombs the flour. Edith sets the caramel tripwire beneath the base layer. You stir and stir and stir until the batter sings, literally. It hums in a tone just off pitch from God Save the King. You pour, you bake, you wait. Then comes the moment. The two puddings emerge. Yours, heavy, proud, honest, crowned with burnt sugar lace and hope. Theirs, levitating slightly, surrounded by a faint electric buzz. Spatchcock steps up. It is time. He looks to the crowd. They vote, by taste, by tear, by emotional resonance. They begin with the Sponge Society. Spoons dip, chew, swallow. One woman faints from flavor complexity. A child bursts into poetry. It's good. Too good. Then your pudding, it's handed out slowly, and something strange happens. No one faints, no one cries, but they smile. Soft, steady, real, and one man whispers, "This tastes like my mother's kitchen, like memory, like forgiveness." Spatchcock takes the stage. The crowd holds its breath. Then he declares, "The winner is..." A beat. Then, a crack, loud, sudden. From the center of the arena, the sixth pudding. It's back. It rises from the floor, untouched, glowing, and everyone screams. The sixth pudding rises, not metaphorically, physically. From beneath the arena floor, emerging slowly, glowing softly, spinning gently in mid-air as if lifted by nostalgia, prophecy, and an ungodly amount of clarified butter. People scream, cheer, faint. One elderly woman shouts, "It's the second coming," before being gently sedated with a brandy truffle. You don't move. You can't. Your spoon clatters to the ground as the pudding rotates slowly above the platform, perfectly suspended, untouched by gravity or common sense. The crowd is frozen in collective culinary awe. Even Spatchcock removes his meringue crown in reverence. Cinnamon stares at the rising dessert, like a man seeing his first real sunrise after a lifetime of artificial candles. He whispers something. You think it answered the call. The pudding settles just a few inches above the center platform. Floating, glowing, wholly unbothered by the laws of physics. A hush falls over the iron bake arena. You can hear every breath, every heartbeat, every tiny spoon dropped in sheer disbelief. Then softly, as if on cue, a speaker crackles to life. It's not connected to anything, it shouldn't exist, but the voice is unmistakable. Algernon Plumley Rosecroft. Congratulations, you've proven yourselves worthy. Of what? I'm still figuring that out. But you did it. People glance around. There's no stage, no booth attendant, just voice. The sixth pudding is more than a dessert, it's a signal that flavor belongs to no one and everyone. Cinnamon steps forward, eyes fixed on the pudding. What is this, Rosecroft? Some kind of culinary ghost transmission? The voice chuckles. Hardly, just pre-recorded megalomania. I baked it with a failsafe. If it was ever misused, or forgotten, or turned into a commodity, it would return to the center. To declare one final truth, he pauses. The crowd leans in. The pudding glows brighter. There is only one pudding, and it chooses balance. The crowd gasps like they rehearsed it. Your grandmother grabs your hand, tight. Cinnamon lowers his head. The Sponge Society leader shakes her scarfed head slowly, as if mourning a flavor lost to time. And then, without warning, the pudding pulses. Once, twice, and and explodes, not violently, gloriously. It bursts into a storm of sugar crystals, raisins, orange zest, and shimmering flakes of memory. A radiant cascade of ingredients rains down on the arena. No fire, no danger, just deliciousness. You stand in the center as it falls around you, coating everything in a soft shimmer of sweetness and warmth. Someone tastes it from the air. It's like forgiveness, with hints of clove. Children laugh, grown men cry. Someone proposes marriage to a cake stand. The sugarfall continues for a full minute before finally settling, and when it does, the sixth pudding is gone. Nothing left but a single spoon, polished, ancient, floating mid-air for just a moment. Then it drops, right into your hands. Silence, until Spatchcock speaks, voice trembling. I declare the bake-off resolved. The crowd erupts, not in cheers, in something quieter, more powerful. Peace. Later, after the arena clears and the final spoon duel, unrelated, alcohol-fueled, is broken up, you find yourself back at your grandmother's side. She stares into the remains of the arena, still shimmering faintly from the sugar storm. We never needed to win, she says quietly. We just needed to remember why we bake. You nod. Not because you understand everything, but because that feels right. Then someone taps your shoulder. You turn. It's Cinnamon. No scarf, no goggles. Just a baker, and something softer in his eyes. You were right, he says. About flavor, about balance, about letting pudding evolve without forgetting where it came from. He holds out a notebook. His. The one he's guarded for years. This is yours now if you want it. You take it. Inside, diagrams, notes, flavors, regrets. A sketch of your pudding, labeled home. You blink hard. Then he says, one more thing. He pulls from his coat a small wrapped bundle, cloth, string, care. He unwraps it. Inside a slice, the final remaining piece of the sixth pudding. You stare. But I thought it exploded? It did, but I saved a bit, just in case, for the one person who earned it. You hesitate, then take it. The crowd is gone. The war is over. The flavor remains. You lift the fork, take the bite. It tastes like your grandmother's kitchen, like burnt sugar at midnight, like rules rewritten and spices remembered, like something sacred, stolen, and then returned. It tastes like Christmas, the real kind, not the one from catalogs, the one from heartbeats, mistakes, second chances, and pudding. Always pudding. You exhale, smile, then turn to Cinnamon. Next year, he nods. Let's bake together. And somewhere, faintly, as snow begins to fall again, you swear you hear a whisper from the spoon. Good job, kid. By Boxing Day morning, the entire village smells like the inside of a cookbook that's just had a religious awakening. You wake up with raisin crumbs in your hair, icing sugar on your sleeves, and something new in the air. Not victory, not defeat. Something softer. Resolution. You sit at the kitchen table as your grandmother pours tea, her hands steady, her eyes finally clear. The pudding storm is over, she says. You nod. But you both know it's not. Not really, because everyone wants the recipe. The sixth pudding, what it was, what it became, has set off a chain reaction. In the 24 hours since it vanished into delicious mist, letters have arrived from as far as Bath, Edinburgh, and Belgium. They all ask the same thing. Will you publish it? Can we recreate it? Is it patent pending? The last one is from the Featherstones. Naturally. You stare at the growing pile of parchment and telegrams and feel the weight of what's being asked. The pudding wasn't just a dessert, it was a miracle. And the world doesn't know what to do with miracles unless it can monetize them. Your grandmother finishes her tea and clears her throat. Come with me, she says. You follow her into the pantry, past the flour bins, beyond the jam vault, to a cupboard you've always assumed was just stuck. She opens it with a key you didn't know she wore around her neck. Inside, a ledger, bound in faded leather, pages soft with age and butter smudges, the Merriweather Book of Recipes. Not the one she let you leaf through as a child. The real one. This book isn't indexed, it's not even titled. It begins with a simple phrase. The tongue remembers what the mind forgets. She sets it on the table. Every Merriweather baker has added to this, but only a few removed things. She turns to a page. Your great-great-grandmother's writing. Neat, confident, sharp as a nutmeg rasp. This was the last time a recipe was erased, your grandmother says. The 1861 rum raisin revolt. You blink. You'd always assumed that was a joke. She nods. It started with cloves, ended with someone being buried under plum sauce. We don't talk about it. A beat. But the point is, some recipes aren't meant to be repeated. She closes the book. So the question is this one of them? You think about it all day. The bake-off, the sabotage, the spoon that whispered, the pudding that rose, and you realize you don't know the answer. So you do what any sensible pudding revolutionary would do. You ask everyone else. That afternoon you post a public notice in the village square. Town meeting, midnight, subject, the sixth pudding, open flame, open floor, bring biscuits. At first people scoff, then they show up, because of course they do. No one in Wensleydale passes up a chance to argue over baked goods. By midnight the town hall is packed, everyone's there. Spatchcock, wearing a cape made entirely of repurposed oven mitts. The Sponge Society, seated politely but suspiciously in the back row. Cinnamon, next to them, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Even the Featherstones, who claim they came just to observe, but are passing out flyers for a new pudding-themed investment firm. You stand at the front with the spoon in your hand. The room quiets. We're not here to rebake history, you begin. We're here to ask, should some flavors remain and unrepeated? Murmurs ripple. You continue. The sixth pudding was a miracle, but it wasn't ours alone. It came from collision, from compromise, from a mess no one planned. You hold up Cinnamon's notebook. There's enough here to recreate it. We could give the world the recipe. A pause. Then you ask, but should we? The first to speak is Mrs. Dobbins. Unexpected. I hated that pudding, she says, gasps. But I've never stopped thinking about it. It scared me, because it tasted like change. Then Spatchcock stands. I've judged puddings for 32 years. I've had some that made me weep. Others that made me call a doctor. But that one, it made me reconsider my palate. He removes his meringue crown. I say we protect it. Not as a recipe, but as a story. Nods. Then Edith raises her hand. For the first time, she speaks more than 2 words. I've already tried to bake it again, she says. Twice, it didn't work. It's like it knew I was trying. It fell flat. A shiver moves through the room. Then Cinnamon steps forward. Slow. Measured. I've documented every flavor profile known to this country. I've replicated Queen Victoria's private sponge. I've reversed engineered Napoleon's lost trifle. He looks around. But I couldn't recreate the sixth pudding because it wasn't just chemistry. It was context. He gestures to you. This person didn't follow a formula. They followed an instinct, a truth no lab can measure. The room is quiet until your grandmother stands. She takes the spoon from your hand, holds it up. Then we vote, simple, democratic, as it should be. She looks around. Publish the recipe, or let it fade like flavor on the tongue? Hands raise one by one. Featherstone abstains, of course, but the rest, a slow, building wave. Not unanimous, but undeniable. The pudding will remain unwritten. The next morning you walk through the village as the sun rises. For the first time in weeks there's peace. Children sled past carrying lemon tarts, a chimney puff smoke that smells faintly of nutmeg, and at the bakery window someone's written, "Bake boldly, but not blindly." You smile, then feel a tap on your shoulder. It's Cinnamon. He hands you something, a postcard. Front, a drawing of the sixth pudding, floating. Back. There are flavors yet to discover. Let's find them, together. Signed, See, you nod, because that's what comes next. Not legacy, not secrecy, creation. You return home. Open a fresh page in the Merriweather ledger, and you write, December 26th. The pudding was never meant to last, but the feeling it gave us, that's the real recipe. You close the book and start mixing something new. It begins with a stick of butter, unsalted, slightly warm, suspiciously well wrapped. You find it on your doorstep 2 days after the vote. No note, no signature. Just butter. You assume it's a thank you gift, maybe from Cinnamon, maybe from a grateful villager hoping you'll bless their custard next year. You bring it inside, place it on the counter and think nothing of it until it moves. Not dramatically, just a soft slide, a shimmy really. You blink. It's butter. It doesn't do that. You watch it. Nothing. You take a sip of tea, turn back. It's now facing the other direction. You blink harder. Your grandmother walks in, drying her hands with a dish towel. Something wrong? The butter just rotated. Oh, she says. That. You stare. That. She nods solemnly. It's happening again. You sit at the kitchen table. She brings out a small leather-bound volume titled Supernatural Culinary Events Volume 2. She flips to a dog-eared page titled The Butter Incidents. Last occurred in 1871, she says, tapping the page. A batch of haunted scones led to 3 disappearances and 1 temporary marriage. You lean in. What causes it? Too much unresolved flavor. Sometimes when a recipe is erased, the ingredients remember. You look at the butter. It's sweating. Not melting. Sweating. Like it knows something. By nightfall, more items appear on your porch. A jar of jam, labeled, Forgive Me. A tin of biscuits that reshuffle themselves when no one is looking. A handwritten recipe for guilt tart with shame crust. You realize someone or something is trying to recreate the 6th pudding from memory, but not yours, the pudding's. You take the items to Cinnamon. He's renting a room above the tea shop now, living off custard and existential dread. He studies the butter under a microscope. It's not dairy, he mutters. It's memory fat, flavor congealed into a semi-solid regret form. You blink. Is that real science? He shrugs. It is now. He unwraps the jam, sniffs, winces. This jam, it remembers loss. He holds up the recipe card. And this handwriting? I've seen it before. He flips through his notebook. Stops. Points to an entry from 5 years ago. A name you haven't heard since the competition ended. Beatrice. Beatrice was Plumley Rosecroft's former assistant. A ghost in the archives. Whispers of brilliance. Rumors of rebellion. She disappeared after the bake collapse of 1890, presumed lost in the sponge implosion. But now, she's back. Or someone wants you to think she is. You gather the assembly of the broken whisks. They arrive within the hour, each armed with their chosen utensil. Edith, dual-wielding whisks. Uncle Bertie, sugar blowtorch strapped to his back. Hyacinth, citrus slicer holstered like a dagger. You spread the jam, pass the biscuits, explain the memory fat. Someone is trying to revive the pudding, but not bake it, summon it. Cinnamon nods gravely. That's not a recipe, it's a ritual. That night, you sneak into the old bakery ruins on the edge of the village, the same one sealed after the Raisin riots of '03. You find signs immediately. Burn marks in the shape of a spoon. Sifted flour forming a near-perfect circle. A blackboard scribbled with the phrase, "Balance is a lie, flavor is war." In the center, a bowl, empty, waiting. You approach. Inside it, a single note. They erased me, now I erase them. One flavor at a time. B. You back away. The flour begins to shift. The circle glows. You scream, "Run!" You barely make it out as the bakery erupts into a storm of spice and smoke. A flaming cinnamon stick hurtles past your head. Screams echo through the dark, accompanied by the sound of whisking at impossible speeds. You escape with the team, coughing and sugar-dusted. Cinnamon slams the van door. It's worse than I thought. She's not baking the pudding, she's becoming it. You stare. Excuse me? He points back at the ruins. The flavor signature. It's not residual. It's sentient. Back at headquarters, formerly your grandmother's pantry, the team regroups. You pin the note to the wall beside Cinnamon's spice map. You draw lines, theories, flavor trails. It all leads to one conclusion. Beatrice has become a flavor ghost, a specter of unfinished recipes, and she's using haunted ingredients to resurrect the shadow pudding. Cinnamon slams down a book. We can't fight her with logic or heat. We need something older. He opens to a chapter titled The Forbidden Flavors. Memory custard, betrayal, brittle, spiteful toffee, and the most dangerous of all, grudge ganache. You blink. That one's just a myth. Your grandmother steps in. It's not. She opens the cellar, pulls out a sealed tin. Inside, a square of ganache so dark it seems to absorb light. This was made during the Great Bake Freeze of 1812. It was banned for making 3 men cry and 1 woman gain memories of someone else's childhood. She hands it to you. It's ice cold, but your hand burns. You know what this means. If Beatrice is trying to unbake the 6th pudding by building a shadow pudding, you'll have to counterbake. A defense pudding. The 7th. The final course. Something not built from legacy. Or sabotage or glory, but from every flavor you've earned and every failure you've survived. You gather your ingredients, the old, the new, the strange. A teaspoon of your grandmother's defiance, a pinch of Cinnamon's humility, a drop of Edith's mysterious past, and the last shard of sugar from the 6th pudding's explosion. You stir, slowly, respectfully. The batter shivers in the bowl. It knows what it's being asked to do. You bake, and wait, and pray. At dawn, the pudding rises. Tall, dark, unbothered. You call it the anchor. Because it won't float, won't hover, it will hold. You wrap it in linen, seal it in a travel tin, and prepare for your final journey. Because Beatrice is out there, unfinished, unbound, and she just sent another note. You can't kill what was never fully baked. The anchor pudding rests in a tin lined with reinforced parchment and ancient Merryweather hope. You don't know if it's enough, but it's all you've got. Outside, the snow has turned sleet. The sky is churning like overwhipped meringue. Birds are flying south in odd formations. Someone swears they saw a cloud shaped like a fork. This is it, the final bake. Not for applause, not for medals, but for flavor equilibrium. Beatrice, the vanished apprentice, the ghost baker, the myth hiding in recipe footnotes, is trying to rebake reality, and you're the only one with an oven hot enough to stop her. You gather your team at the old mill. It's been abandoned for years, but tonight it's been reborn as a command center for culinary warfare. The assembly of the broken whisks is present and armed. Edith wears a belt of candied knives. Bertie loads his sugar cannon. Jenny with the eye patch is silently reading from the Necronom Nom Nom, the forbidden cookbook. Cinnamon stands beside you, wearing his old Bake Council uniform like a knight resurrected. He turns to you. You realize she's not just baking a pudding. She's baking a concept, one that might rewrite everything. You nod. Then we unbake it. The plan is simple. Beatrice has retreated to the ruins of the original Bake Council Hall, a Gothic structure long abandoned after the Great Frosting Scandal of 1886. There she's rumored to be finishing the shadow pudding, a dessert built from resentment, forgotten recipes, and stolen taste profiles. If she succeeds, it will overwrite every known pudding in the National Archives. Every Christmas. Every tradition, reformatted. You'll deliver the anchor, your counter-dessert, and place it on the ceremonial bake altar, nullifying her flavor field before she can complete the final stir. Easy, except it isn't. Because the Bake Council Hall is booby-trapped. You arrive at the edge of the ruins by nightfall. The trees are bare. The air is heavy with spice. The snow here is warm. Bertie tests the ground with a pastry scraper. It's infused with cinnamon, but also guilt. You advance in silence. Cinnamon whispers instructions. Left of the licorice pit, right at the boiling trifle basin, watch for marshmallow mines. You follow carefully. Your steps crunch softly. Edith disables a scone-triggered alarm. Jenny uses a caramel grappling hook to swing over a molasses moat. You crawl under a peppermint tripwire. This is baking but militarized. Finally, you reach the hall. A looming stone cathedral shaped like a bundt pan, windows made of sugar glass, roofline dusted in powdered danger. You press your hand to the old oak door. It hums, alive. You glance at Cinnamon. He nods. She's inside. You push the door open. The Bake Council Hall is lit only by the flicker of unstable oven fire. Pots clatter by themselves, spice racks rotate. There's a quiet hum in the air, like something remembering how to sing. At the center, a dais. And on it, Beatrice. She's taller than you remember from the illustrations, paler, dustier, more shadow than person. Her apron flutters without wind. Her eyes glow faintly. One hand stirs an invisible bowl. The other reaches toward the altar, where the shadow pudding rests. It pulses softly, like a heart, or a countdown. She speaks without turning. You came. I was hoping you would. You step forward, the anchor in your hands. You can still stop this. She shakes her head. Why would I stop now? The world forgot me. So I rewrote myself into its tongue. Soon no one will remember the sixth pudding, only mine. You place the anchor down, across from hers. The puddings hum. The air warps. Two opposing recipes, two flavors, ancient and unresolved. They begin to clash, not physically, elementally. Spices erupt from the walls. Coriander versus clove. Lemon zest versus burnt orange memory. You duck as a rosemary shard flies past your head. Cinnamon throws up a spice shield. You have to bake now. Finish the anchor. You fumble for your tools. Eggs crack themselves. Milk floats. You whip, stir, fold. Edith lays down a sugared defense perimeter. Bertie uses molten caramel to draw anti-flavor runes on the floor. Beatrice screams, not in fear, in rage. You think you can balance what was never whole. You keep stirring. The anchor begins to glow, golden, soft, warm, like a sunrise. Beatrice lifts the shadow pudding above her head. It howls. You see faces in its steam. Old judges, lost flavors, forgotten regrets. She hurls it toward the anchor. But you're ready. You pull the spoon from your coat, the one that started this all, the Merryweather heirloom. You raise it, strike the altar, and taste, just one bite, of the pudding you created. The world stops. The clashing spices freeze in mid-air. The walls quiet. Even the shadow pudding pauses. Because flavor has been decided. And you've chosen hope, not perfection, not rebellion, something in between. Beatrice staggers backward. She clutches the air like it's crumbling in her hands. You remembered. You tasted me and chose something else. You nod. You were brilliant, but you baked from pain. A pause. Then, I baked from people. She drops to her knees. The shadow pudding deflates. Steam hisses upward. Gone. Cinnamon steps forward, offers her a hand. Come back to the kitchen, we still need bakers. She hesitates, then takes it. Outside, the snow falls gently. The team exits the hall, the anchor still warm in your hands. The world is still here, unrewritten, unfrosted, free. Your grandmother waits by the gate. She takes the pudding, holds it to her heart. You did it. You nod. But something flickers behind your eyes. You tasted her pudding, and something in it stayed. Not evil, not wrong, just unfinished. Later that night, you open Cinnamon's notebook. There's a page titled Post-Anchor Concepts. You turn to a blank one. Begin to write, some puddings never leave you. They haunt the tongue. And if you're lucky, they teach you what you forgot to taste. Then, in the quiet of your kitchen, you place a bowl on the table. You light a single candle and stir. Just once. The batter shivers. You stir once. The batter shivers. Not violently, just a subtle ripple, like it recognizes your hand. Like it's waking up. You freeze. The kitchen is silent except for the quiet crackle of the candle, the ticking of the spice clock, and the bowl in front of you pulsing like a waiting question. You didn't add anything new, no exotic zest, no smuggled spirit, just flour, egg, milk, and instinct. But something's there, something you didn't mean to remember. You don't sleep. Instead, you stay at the table, staring into the bowl like it holds the future. Maybe it does. Maybe all pudding is prophecy. At 3:11 a.m., the batter shifts again. No breeze, no vibration, just awareness. You reach for a spoon, then stop, because you know if you taste it, you're not just sampling ingredients, you're communing. The next morning, you try to ignore it. You bake a normal breakfast pudding. Raisins, bread, vanilla. Nothing haunted. Your grandmother doesn't mention the bowl. Neither does Cinnamon, who shows up at the door carrying a bag of rogue custard samples and the latest issue of Bakewatch, Europe. But you know they know, because they won't go near the counter where the bowl sits. They walk around it like it's emitting heat or history. By afternoon, the bowl starts humming, soft at first, a low melodic vibration, almost musical. You swear you hear a chord from "O Come All Ye Faithful" mixed with something older, like a lullaby for flour. Cinnamon sniffs the air. "That's not a ferment," he mutters. "That's a resonance." You raise an eyebrow, he explains. "Some flavors aren't just ingredients. They're frequencies. If you combine the right elements, in the right emotional context, you don't just bake a dessert." He taps the bowl. You open a channel. That night, you gather the team again. The assembly of the broken whisks arrives without needing to be summoned. They all felt it. Edith touches the bowl's rim. Closes her eyes. "It's like it's remembering for me." Jenny nods. "It's not just ingredients. It's all the flavors we never made, the ones we almost forgot." Cinnamon clears his throat. "We've baked across 3 dimensions. We've seen levitating puddings, combusting tarts, and morally questionable eclairs. But this is deep pudding." You blink. "Excuse me." He shrugs. "Flavor that runs below taste, below smell, below meaning." He steps back. "This bowl is holding the essence of everything we didn't bake, everything Beatrice started, everything the 6th pudding left behind." The batter shifts again. This time it forms letters, tiny ripples, spelling out 2 words. "Stir me." You do, very slowly. The spoon glides through like it's not batter, but memory. Images flash. Your grandmother, as a child, laughing as she bakes with her father. Beatrice, crying in the dark, whispering apologies into a sponge. Cinnamon alone in the Bake Council archives, tasting a jam so good it made him forget his name. You keep stirring. Then suddenly, the spoon stops, hits something. You reach in. Your fingers close around a tiny object. You lift it out. A coin. Old. Tarnished. Smells like nutmeg and regret. On one side, the Merryweather crest. On the other, a single phrase. "One recipe must remain." Your grandmother gasps. "That's not possible. That coin was melted down in the Great Bake Purge of 48. Cinnamon takes it gently. He studies the edges. "This isn't a coin, it's a seal." He turns to you. The batter's not haunted, it's locked. And this is the key. The kitchen shifts. You feel it in your bones. The temperature drops. The lights dim. And the bowl begins to rise. Very slowly. It lifts from the counter, hovers chest height, and splits. Not physically, metaphorically. Suddenly, you're not in your kitchen anymore. You're in a chamber. A great, flour-dusted space with spice-colored pillars and shelves reaching into infinity. It smells like cinnamon, memory, and quiet betrayal. You're standing in the vault of forgotten recipes. You blink. The rest of the team is beside you. Cinnamon is grinning like a mad scientist at Christmas. "It's real," he whispers. "I thought it was legend. a pantry whispered about in footnotes and banned newsletters. Edith touches the wall. This is where recipes go when we decide not to write them down. Jenny walks forward. This is where the sixth pudding went. A figure steps out from the shadows. She's wearing a flour-dusted cloak. Her hands are covered in powdered sugar. Her eyes shimmer like reduced lemon glaze. Beatrice, but not furious, not haunted. Just tired. You followed it, she says. You nod. She gestures around. This is where all the forgotten flavors live. The ones we baked in moments of fear or love or accidents we couldn't explain. You can take one, but only one. She holds up her hand. The coin glows. One recipe must remain. The others dissolve. That's the rule. Always has been. You step forward. Hundreds of recipes float before you. A pudding that brings back a lost memory. A sponge that tastes different depending on your mood. A tart that can end an argument. A sauce that whispers secrets. You glance at Cinnamon. He nods. Pick the one that feeds more than mouths. You reach out. Your hand hovers over a soft blue parchment. The title, The Empathy Crumble. You feel it. A warmth, a knowing, a promise. You take it. The others fade. The lights dim. You're back in the kitchen. The bowl is empty, the coin is gone, but the recipe is in your hand. Your grandmother whispers, "It's never been about keeping flavor. It's about sharing the one we need most." You nod. And as dawn breaks over Wensleydale once more, you fire up the oven. To bake something that isn't just delicious, but human. The parchment is warm in your hand, not from heat, but from recognition, as if the recipe itself knows it's been chosen, as if the words on the page are exhaling for the first time in years. The Empathy Crumble. You read the title again. It feels like a whisper in a crowded room, like the final note of a carol sung slightly off-key, but from the heart. It's not ornate, not experimental, no foams, reductions, or mirror glazes. The ingredients are deceptively simple. 3 apples, bruised but sweet. 1 pinch of salt, for memory. Crushed oats, to ground the soul. A handful of sugar from someone else's jar. And butter, shared, not measured at the bottom, scribbled in softer ink. Bake only when ready to listen. You look up. The kitchen is still. No more glowing bowls. No whispering spoons. No ghost bakers materializing from flour storms. Just you. And a recipe that may not change the world, but might just change the next 5 minutes. You begin peeling the apples, each one different, some dented, one slightly too green. You don't fix them, you don't adjust. You leave the bruises, because the recipe doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for honesty. Jenny with the eye patch sits at the table, watching silently. She offers no advice, just presence, like a judge who's retired from judgment. Edith hums quietly, a song with no name. It fills the space like steam. Cinnamon leans in from the pantry, arms crossed. Smells like vulnerability. You nod. Then you add the salt. Just a pinch. Enough to taste, not dominate. Enough to remind you of tears you didn't allow. As you crush the oats, your grandmother walks in. She doesn't speak, just picks up a spoon, begins stirring something else. Something older. Her presence steadies you. Then she places her hand over yours. The trick isn't getting it right. It's not rushing the bake. The oven is preheated. You spread the apples into a dish gently. They don't sit evenly. You let them be. You sprinkle the crumble mixture on top like it's a secret passed down through generations of people who loved badly but baked well. And then you slide it in. No timer. Just instinct. You sit with the others as it bakes. No one talks, because everyone feels it. The shift. The quiet awakening. Not mystical, not magical, just real. When the scent hits, it's not overpowering. It doesn't demand, it invites warmth, softness. Something halfway between dessert and forgiveness. At exactly the right moment, you open the oven. Golden, bubbling, cracked in the middle like a healed wound. You set it on the counter. The Empathy Crumble. You don't serve it. You offer it. The first bite goes to Edith. She takes it, then stares out the window like she's seeing something no one else can. Then Jenny. Her eye blinks slowly. She smiles just slightly and whispers, "Tastes like before." Your grandmother takes a bite, then closes her eyes. You see her shoulders drop for the first time in years. Even Cinnamon, the man who once rated desserts using a scale based on regret and texture, takes a forkful and says nothing. Just sits, still, then looks at you. You've done it. Word spreads, not viral, not flashy, just person to person, the kind of news that travels through steam and eye contact. People begin arriving at your door, not to taste, to talk. They sit in your kitchen, one by one, with crumbs on their lips and stories in their hands. A man who hasn't spoken to his sister in 8 years, now holding her hand while asking for more crust. A child who doesn't like sweets but says, "This tastes like how I want to feel." Even Lord Featherstone arrives. No monocle, no velvet, just a tin. "I heard it's not for sale," he says. You nod. "Then I'm here to trade," he says, holding out an old family recipe titled Resentment Biscuits. You swap. No questions asked. The crumble becomes more than a dessert. It becomes a ritual. Every batch slightly different. Never the same, but always familiar. Some have pears, some have cardamom. One batch accidentally includes a paperclip and yet is reviewed as surprisingly introspective. No one writes it down because the recipe isn't on the parchment anymore. It's in motion. It's in sharing, it's in you. One night a knock at the door, you open it to find Beatrice. Not spectral, not shrouded in steam, just tired and holding a single apple. "It bruised on the way over," she says. You take it gently. "Perfect." She sits. You serve her the crumble. She cries. You don't ask why, because that's the whole point. Weeks pass. Winter softens. The snow becomes slush. The sugar in the air settles. The 6th pudding is never rebuilt. The anchor is quietly buried in the village square with a plaque that reads, "In case of flavor emergency, dig here." The Sponge Society dissolves, not in failure, in evolution. They open the first ever Bakers Without Borders caravan. They tour forgotten towns, teaching people to bake what they never thought they could. You return to ordinary life. Sort of. Except now your kitchen is a sanctuary. People still show up, sometimes to bake, sometimes to cry. Sometimes just to sit in the smell of brown sugar and safety. You keep the bowl on the counter, not because it glows, because it reminds you that some things never settle. And that's okay. One day, Cinnamon appears with a letter. You recognize the seal immediately. The Bake Council. Apparently, they've been reinstated. Apparently, they want you to join. You stare at the letter, then look at your oven, then at the crumble. Still warm, still whispering. You write back, "Thank you. But my council meets at a wooden table with no robes, just spoons." You close the envelope with a cinnamon stick. The next morning, a small box arrives. Inside, a golden whisk, a note, "For the one who remembered why we stir. See." You hang it above the oven, not as a trophy, as a compass, so that no matter what flavor comes next, you'll always find your way back. And on the last page of the Merriweather ledger, beneath all the generations of sweetness and sabotage, you write, December 30th. The pudding didn't save us. We saved each other. One crumble at a time. Winter fades. The snow thaws into muddy apologies. In its place emerges something warmer. Possibility. The village is quiet when you step outside. The bakeries reopen. The smells of yeast, sugar, and tension return. But there is something new under it all. A gentle hope. Not triumph. Not victory. Just the idea that baking can belong to everyone. You walk through the main street, past the Featherstone shop, closed for renovations, past Dobbins's storefront, repainted in cheerful yellow, past the little tea kiosk where children queue for cinnamon buns, and you see the sign, the Wensleydale Guild of Bakers, Esther 1925. You stop, heart in your throat. Below it, A chalkboard reads, "Open to all, bring your recipe, share, don't hoard." You smile, because this is what you built. Inside the old Methodist gymnasium, once the Iron Bake Arena, they're renovating. Tables, benches, ovens under tarps. You and your grandmother walk in. The other guild founders, Edith, Bertie, Jenny, even Cinnamon, are already at work. You carry the relic parchment of the empathy crumble in one hand, the golden whisk from the Bake Council in the other. Cinnamon doesn't look at you. He's focused on wiring electric lights in the corners, planning for evening bake-ins. "The guild starts tonight," he says simply, without turning. You glance around. People are setting up recipe racks, not locked vaults. Racks, open, available to everyone. It feels like sunlight filtering through stained glass windows for the first time in centuries. At 6 o'clock, the inaugural meeting begins. The gym floor is cleared, the oven banks powered up. Overhead, the new neon sign buzzes, "Guild open, bakers welcome." Your grandmother steps to the podium. She holds the spoon, polished and bright, the one that survived wars and rebellions. "Welcome," she says, her voice steady. "This isn't a competition. This is a community." She turns, gestures to you. "And this is the new recipe. Empathy crumble. Not owned but given. Not perfect, but real." Gasps and soft applause. You place the parchment in the center of a communal table alongside 3 other recipes contributed by guild members, each with a handwritten note. My story. The guild charter is read. Recipes must be shared and not hoarded. No sabotage. Every bake must teach or comfort. The empathy crumble covenant, baked only when truly ready to listen. You wander among the new bakers. A seamstress from the lane who bakes rye buns infused with lavender. A blacksmith's widow who makes nut cakes with secret spice combinations. A schoolboy who bakes because his mother died. Each offering recipes, fears, dreams. You realize this guild isn't about winning. It's about bearing flavors, bearing stories, bearing kitchens. Someone approaches you, a woman you don't know, holds out a sheet. Grandma's winter tart, sugar scarce, hope infinite. She bows. You accept. You smile. Then Cinnamon appears beside you. His presence is softer than it's been in months. "Thank you," he says, "for letting me come back in." You nod. You know what he means. He doesn't ask forgiveness, just bakes. And that's enough. By candlelight that night, the guild holds its first bake-in. All ovens are lit, all stoves humming. People work quietly, measuring, stirring, tasting. No judges, no pomp, just craft. You stand at the empathy table, watching first-timers coax dough into shape, coax hope into form. At one point, the parchment glows faintly, a warmth, a reminder that this story continues, not in vaults, but in hands. Late that evening, the guild doors close. You remain last in the hall. You collect the recipes people left. Note the new ones forming like seedlings in clay. Your grandmother appears beside you. "We saved Wensleydale's baking soul," she says softly. You look at her, hesitate. "Do you think the 6th pudding will ever return?" She smiles, wistful. "It never left. It's part of all of us now." You leave the gymnasium with the golden whisk across your shoulder, the empathy parchment tucked in your coat, the smell of yeast and possibility in your lungs. Snow begins to fall again. Soft, clean, unassuming. No storms now. You pause in the street. Look at the sign across the road. Guild of Bakers lights inside. Shadows moving. Laughter. Steam. You whisper, "Here's to every recipe we didn't write, to every flavor we'll never own, and to the crumbs we share." You step forward and into the light. 2 months after the guild opens, a box arrives from London. No return address, no stamp. Just a label written in elegant looping script. "To the custodian of taste. From the Office of Culinary Memory. Archive classification. R. Resurrected. Handle with reverence." You don't know what the Office of Culinary Memory is. You're not entirely sure it's real. But the box hums softly, like something inside is remembering you. You place it on the guild table. Everyone gathers. Cinnamon, Edith, your grandmother, Jenny with the eye patch, even Spatchcock, who now serves as honorary guild mascot, wearing a cloak made from stitched-together oven mitts. You cut the string, open the lid. Inside, a small velvet-wrapped book, and beneath it an object that makes every breath freeze mid-air. The original spoon. Not your family's heirloom. The spoon. The one from the 6th pudding. The one that vanished with the sugar storm. Polished, untarnished, reverent. The room is silent. Then Cinnamon leans in. We're not just preserving recipes anymore, he says. We're being watched by history. The velvet book contains just one recipe. No title, no ingredients, just a poem. In every pudding lies a truth, stirred once for rage, twice for youth. Add what you lost, subtract the gain, and bake until it knows your name. It's not a guide, it's a test. A recipe written for no one and everyone. You look around the guild table. Edith is already sketching interpretations on the back of a crumpet box. Jenny whispers, "It's not meant to be baked. It's meant to be understood." You place the poem in the guild archive, now a room behind the kitchen pantry, filled with tin boxes, handwritten pages, and two very protective mice named Basil and Mace. Above the shelf, a new sign, "Forgotten, not lost." Every week, more recipes arrive, some in envelopes, some scrawled on napkins. One baked directly into a loaf of banana bread. People are sending you pieces of themselves, and you're starting to realize the guild isn't just about baking, it's about translation. You start hosting a new guild session. Thursday nights, no ovens, no ingredients, no expectations, just parchment. And the question, what flavor do you wish existed? The answers are strange, beautiful, sad. The taste of a hug you were too proud to accept. The last laugh before someone moved away. What I should have said in sponge form. My mother's voice when she used to sing while peeling apples. You write them down, you put them in the archive, you begin calling them phantom flavors, recipes that may never be baked, but deserve to be remembered. One evening, as you're cataloguing these entries, Cinnamon sits beside you. He's quiet, for once. He holds up a card. On it, just one line. Flavor of letting go. He looks at you. You don't speak. He adds it to the archive. Then walks out into the snow. A week later, a letter arrives addressed to you, handwritten, sealed with wax. Inside, "Dear Custodian, it is our pleasure to inform you that your guild's efforts have created a flavor anomaly significant enough to warrant observation from the highest culinary tier. Your designation has been upgraded from independent flavor node to recognized culinary beacon. Effective immediately, Wensleydale on Dorset will be listed in the Master Flavor Registry under active emotional epicenters. Congratulations. Try not to burn anything. Archivist Fern Meringue, Office of Culinary Memory, Shadow Depth, Tier 2. You blink, then laugh, because somewhere between pudding sabotage, bake-offs, memory custards, and empathy crumbles, you accidentally turned your town into a flavor capital. Soon, others begin to arrive. Not tourists, bakers, from Belgium. From Morocco, from Canada. They bring techniques you've never seen, spices you can't pronounce, ideas that stretch the limits of language. They don't come to teach, they come to learn. You host an exchange. Each visitor must create one new dish based on a local guild memory. 1 week later, the results are laid out. A miso-laced pear pudding called Grandfather's Apology. A coffee-soaked clafoutis named I Should Have Called. A sponge cake with no sugar and too much lemon titled Almost Forgiveness. You cry twice, then laugh with your mouth full. You realize what you've done. You've created a culinary language for feelings we never knew how to say. Later that night, your grandmother takes your hand. You were never meant to win a competition, she says. You nod. You were meant to give people back their taste. She leaves the spoon on the counter, the one from the 6th pudding. You'll know when it's time to stir again. That evening you sit alone in the kitchen, batter bowl empty, oven warm, book open. You read the poem again. not to bake, just to remember. And the last line shimmers, faintly, like it's changing. And bake until it heals your name. You exhale, then smile. Because this isn't the end. This is block 20. And you still have 10 more to go. You wake to find a word written in flour on your kitchen floor. Almost. Just that. Not hello, not warning, not even clean me. Just almost. And you know it wasn't a prank, because no one in your household uses cursive that elegantly, because the letters curve like the edge of a cinnamon stick, because the moment you whisper it aloud, the entire pantry sighs, and because you've been feeling it for weeks, not full, not empty, almost. The guild is thriving. Membership has doubled. There's a wait list for oven space. Cinnamon has turned the back room into a flavor laboratory, complete with a rotating spice carousel and a wall labeled forbidden but intriguing. Your grandmother now leads empathy bake-ins every Sunday, where people bring one painful memory and one questionable dessert. If you cry, you get extra crust. Even spatchcock has found purpose. He now offers dramatic reenactments of historical bake-offs, complete with capes and pyrotechnic jelly. And yet, you still feel almost. That night, the air grows thick, not with humidity, with expectation. You can smell it. A combination of overripe pear and unfinished confession. You check the pantry. Nothing moves. But a tin falls. Inside, a folded slip of paper, in familiar handwriting. Beatrice. One flavor was never recovered, the one we abandoned. Before sabotage, before competition. Before ambition, I called it the whispered ingredient. You tasted it once, now finish it. You know she's right. There was always something at the center of the sixth pudding that none of you could name. Not sugar, not spice, something whispered. So quiet that it got buried under raisins and pride and butter politics. Now it's calling back. You take the paper to Cinnamon. He's elbow deep in a bowl of experimental hollandaise taffy. He squints at the note. Whispered ingredient? That's not in any archive. You nod. It wouldn't be. It wasn't meant to be written. He tilts his head. Then how do we find it? You glance toward the guild oven, still warm from a batch of spite scones that Jenny with the eye patch just pulled. We don't. We let it find us. You post a sign that night. Guild bake session, no recipes, no rules. One goal, bake what you're afraid to name. It draws skeptics, curiosity seekers. A reporter from the Dorset Digest, but it draws something else too, the feeling. That almost hum in the air. The knowing that something vital is just under the batter. The bake-in begins at midnight. Each baker brings something strange. A pudding flavored with silence. A tart named I Wish I'd Stayed. A loaf that can't rise unless someone else stirs it halfway through. You watch from the center of the room, the spoon in hand. People bake with shaking hands. And suddenly someone screams, not in pain, in recognition. It's this, it's this. They hold up a muffin, still hot, barely formed. The others stop and listen, because the muffin is humming, not loud, but unmistakably singing something low, wordless, and unbearably intimate. Jenny takes a bite, starts crying, then laughing, then says, "It tastes like the thing I didn't say when he left." Someone else tries it. "It tastes like the smell of her scarf." You take a bite. And it hits you. You remember the first time you were told your baking mattered. You were 9. Your pudding had sunk. But your grandmother said, "It tastes like you were trying to say something." And she was right, because back then you didn't bake for approval, or applause, or judges with foam-tipped clipboards. You baked to connect, to tell people what your voice didn't know how to say. That's what the whispered ingredient is, not a flavor, a message. You freeze, because the parchment, the box, the humming, they weren't invitations, they were reminders. The sixth pudding rose because it contained something human, not calculated, not forced, offered. You call the room to silence. Hold up the muffin. This isn't a dessert, it's a confession. You place it on the counter, break it into pieces, offer it around, no one speaks, they just eat. And for the first time in guild history, everyone understands each other without saying a word. Afterwards, you and Cinnamon sit on the guild steps. The moon is bright, the night is still. He turns to you. Think we've solved it? You shake your head. Not solved, just remembered. He passes you a notebook. His, again. New flavor chart. No categories. Just questions. You open to the first page. What do you want someone to taste when they realize they're not alone? You close the book. Look up at the stars. Then say, let's find out. For that night you dream of ovens that breathe, of spoons that sing lullabies, of a pudding made entirely from things we never had the courage to say. And when you wake up, there's a tray on your bedside table, a single slice, still warm. You don't remember baking it, but you know exactly how it tastes, because it's the flavor you've been missing, the flavor of almost. Finally finished. You blink and the slice is gone, not eaten, not vanished, just returned to the tray, softly, as if carried by wind or memory. You reach for it again, cup it in your hand, warm, delicate, impossible. You don't know how you made it, but you feel it, because it tastes like closure, not an ending, but a punctuation mark you waited years to place. You carry it into the guild. Dawn barely breaks. The windows glow pale gold. Ovens hum softly. Bakers stir quietly in their stations. You place the slice at the center of the empathy table. Let it rest. Let it speak. One by one, people gather. Not by announcement, by instinct. They know. Cinnamon appears, carrying a steaming pot of custard to accompany it. Your grandmother arrives from behind, her apron dusted with flour, her face lit. She looks at the slice, then at you. Tears may form. She does not speak. You raise your voice, though it trembles. This is not something I baked. It's something I needed to bake. To remind us that the ingredient we forget, the one that whispers between the raisins, is belonging. Not to kings. Not to judges, but to us, together. Silence stretches. Then someone begins to cry. Soft sobs, muffled. Then another. Then laughter. Then the softest applause you've ever heard. You taste the slice again, this time with company, and it tastes like hope, like reconciliation, like permission to rebuild. Over breakfast that day, the guild changes. The empathy table becomes holy ground. No commercial sales allowed, only sharing, only listening. Recipes are brought. But nothing overtakes that slice. It stays there, a reminder. You notice something strange. The parchment poem from London has shifted. Now its lines read differently. In every pudding lies a voice. Speak once for rage, twice for choice. Taste what you lost, forgive the gain, and bake until you know your name. You share it aloud. The guild listens. They nod, because they understand change. Weeks go by. The slice remains. Bakings happen around it. Crumble, cake, tart, sponge, all offered. None replacing. People begin sending their own versions of that feeling. A loaf that tastes like home after being away. A cookie that whispers, I love you. A pudding that sings your mother's lullaby. The guild grows, not by fame, by belonging. One afternoon, the mail arrives, a thick envelope with foreign stamps. Inside, a photograph, the plate, the slice, light shining through steam, highlighting its edges. On the back, a message in foreign script. Translated by Cinnamon. We tasted it in Paris, in New York, in Tokyo. It echoes farther than borders. You've baked the world awake. The guild cheers. Quietly. Proudly. You feel a tremor in your chest. Because you never wanted fame. You just wanted to be heard. That night you dream again of ovens that breathe, spoons singing, and that slice suspended in air, glowing, calling. You wake early, carry the tray to the window. Snow falls, light drifts. The world is quiet. You whisper, thank you, and you begin to plan the next bake, inspired by phantom flavors, whispered ingredients, human stories. Across the village, in the old town hall, a plaque is unveiled. It reads, "Here stood the vault of recipes, where flavors were hidden so the heart could speak." Underneath the guild motto, "We bake to belong." You stand there surrounded by villagers, bakers, children with sticky fingers. Someone hands you a spatula, not for a competition, for the next chapter. You take it. You lift your eyes to the sky. Snow falls, soft, clean, new. You know there will always be more recipes, more sabotage, more hunger, more questions. But now you also know this. You don't need perfect pudding. You just need enough flavor to say, "I remember you." You step forward into the light and begin. You rise before dawn, though sleep still clings to you like fondant. The crumb of that slice, the flavor you didn't know you needed, still lingers on your tongue, gentle and insistent. Today, the guild meets in the old bakery alley. You step outside, spoon in hand, heart in quiet turbulence. Snow melts underfoot. Puddles mirror the sky. Steam drifts from chimneys, carrying cinnamon ghosts. The air is soft. Possibility hums in it. You arrive to find the guild already gathering. Members wheel ovens, unwrap rack tables, bring crates of fruit and flour. Cinnamon stands by the alley wall, chalk in hand. He circles words: echo, resonance, continuum. Your grandmother appears, carrying a basket of raw apples. She smiles, a small curve, but you feel it. The guild hums its own life. "We echo," she says quietly. You nod. The meeting opens with Edith, who leads. She sets the mood. We bake not to fill mouths, but to echo feelings, to let someone know they're not alone inside their craving. She gestures to the ovens. Today we bake echo recipes, desserts not invented but remembered. Flavors we've tasted in memory, in longing, in half-forgotten dreams. You glance at the parchment in your pocket, still slightly warm. The poem from the velvet book. The lines shift again. In every pudding lies a voice. Speak once for rage, twice for choice. Taste what you lost, forgive the gain, and bake until you echo your name. You exhale softly. Your first collaborator, a young woman, hands trembling, offering a recipe she dubs Last Lullaby Loaf. She says she baked it once for her mother before she left. She says no one ate it. She wonders if it's real. You nod. You make space. She pours batter. You stir gently by her side. You feel layers of grief lift in the bowls, and somewhere amid the oats and honey you taste her memory. It's bittersweet. It's delicate. It's full. Nearby, another baker, an elderly man you don't know, squeezes a lemon over crustless pudding. He whispers, "This tastes like the letter I never sent." Your grandmother leans over. "Then let it be baked now." The guild crowd gathers. They taste. They weep. They nod. Those echoes are real. You step back to the empathy table. The slice remains, always present like a compass. You place your spoon beside it. Let its memory rest. Cinnamon approaches, chalk in hand. "We've been building a cathedral out of crumbs," he says. You smile wryly. "Better than building vaults of silence." He nods solemnly. Together, you chalk new words beneath bricks. Echo, belong, taste again. The baking continues through daylight. Ovens roar, steam drifts, warm flour, sharp zest, soft sugar. Your apron speckled, your hands sticky, your heart full. You bend to test a sponge. It trembles under pressure. You taste, you smile. It echoes, not you, but someone you love. The youth whose first heartbreak you baked, the friend you failed, the promise you fled. Afternoon and news arrives. A traveler from the city brings word. A bakery in Manchester is echoing your empathy crumble. They made it from memory, not recipe. They say it feels like home in a land neither one nor the other. Guild members cheer. You clench your spoon. Pride, soft and honest, warms you, because the echo is spreading. Later, as twilight falls, you gather the guild around the empathy table. Everyone tired, hearts full, flavors mingling in the air. You speak. Today we baked echoes. We revived tender things hidden in crumbs. We let memory speak. We let flavor remember. You look at the slice before you, then at the ovens lit in solidarity. Tomorrow we bake what cannot be lost. You don't say, the future. You say, what cannot be lost. Then a soft knock at the alley gate. You turn. A figure stands in the dusk, wrapped in a cloak, face obscured. They hold out a tin. The guild hushes. The figure steps forward. They lift the tin. Inside, a single ingredient, a jar of jam. Label handwritten, from the archives of Beatrice. One flavor, the echo she feared. A gasp. Beatrice, presented in flour and dust, offering one last secret. You accept the jar. You raise it before the guild. We will bake this echo together. The figure melts into shadow. No footsteps, no farewell. Just presence. You open the lid. The jam glows faintly. Strawberry, cardamom, memory. You feel it inside you. A tremor. You stir it into the batter of a pudding you'd just mixed. You taste, test, adjust. The guild watches. Then one by one they taste the spoonful you offer. One by one their eyes widen. It echoes, not stolen, not copied, but activated. That night, across Wensleydale, lights glow in ovens. People baking echoes in kitchens, cellars, chimneys, recipes unknown, memory stirring. You don't sleep. You sit with Cinnamon quietly. He looks at your hands. You've given them voice. You nod. We bake so echoes live. The empathy table glows. The ovens hum. The night cradles possibility. And somewhere, you sense the sixth pudding, no longer vanished but echoed in every crumb, every echo, every baking heart. You close your eyes. Hear the world taste something new. You awake to silence. Not the absence of noise, but the promise in it. The guild ovens are cold. The aromatic steam of echoes lies dormant, like a sea between waves. You rise, step into your kitchen. The parchment, the crumb, the whisper, all waiting. Today, you travel. Today, you fulfill a promise. You carry the jam jar from Beatrice. Its glow faint in your palm. You wrap it in cloth, tuck it into a satchel. On your back, your spoon, your notebook, your heart. Your grandmother sees you preparing quietly. It's time, she says. You nod. She kisses your cheek. We follow the echoes now. The guild assembles at dawn. Everyone except Beatrice's figure from the alley, absent but present in spirit. Ovens packed, baskets loaded, Hope walking beside Hans. Cinnamon stands before you. He hands you a map. Guild route, archive to archive, he intones. It charts old recipe vaults, library basements, former baker houses, places where flavors were hidden or erased, places waiting for echo restoration. You look at your grandmother. She rests a hand on your shoulder. You walk out together, guild behind you. The first stop, the old library beneath Town Hall. Dust motes drift. Leather-bound tomes and recipe scrolls crowd shelves. You find a sealed cabinet labeled Suppressed Spices. You open it. Inside, a sheet of expired vanilla, a vial of saffron water, and beneath, a faded recipe for taste of longing pudding. You lay it beside the jam jar. Watch as the lines reform. Letters shift. Ingredients appear. The echo emerges. You photograph it. You carry it. Next stop, the Featherstone storeroom. Cobwebbed crates. Smell of old rum casks. You pry open a trunk. Under old baking utensils, a scroll with gold leaf flambe, pre-revolution draft. You take a crumb from the parchment. The guild tastes, gasps. The echo lifts. You collect the fragment. All day you traverse the old baker routes. You visit Dobbin's abandoned kiln. You descend into the subterranean wine cellar turned spice room under St. Agnes's church. You break into the sealed bake vault behind the organ pipes. At each you search for lost recipes, silent, erased, misfiled, rescue their echoes, capture their flavor ghosts, record their tremors. Your satchel bulges with folded notes, jam jars, ghost parchment, spice shards. Your hands tremble with wonder. Your heart hums with belonging. At dusk, you reach the final destination. The original Bake Council archive hidden beneath the old train station, rumored to be sealed since the fifth pudding vanished. The door is cold steel, inscribed "Flavor Beyond Memory." You and your grandmother press through. The hinges groan. Inside, dusty shelves ringed with dim lanterns. In the center, a lone podium. On it, a cracked glass dome. Inside, the sixth pudding spoon, empty pedestal. A hollow echo in a place built to preserve silence. You place the jam jar beside the dome. Watch as its glow intensifies. You unroll your collected fragments around the dome, like tributaries around a well. You pull out the faded recipe for longing pudding. You place the fragrance of suppressed spices. You uncork the saffron water. You set the spoon at the center. The room breathes. Dust motes swirl. Voices, barely whispers, begin to stir. The fragments tremble. Text shifts. Letters glow. Echoes gather. You whisper, "Return." Just that. A plea. A command. A prayer. The dome pulses. The spoon glows gold. Then the parchment above splits like a seam. A wave of flavor sound erupts. Soft, cavernous, resonant. In that moment, you see shapes in the dust. Past bakers. Guarded recipes. Forgotten flavor ghosts. And then, the sixth pudding. It materializes. Not in storm. Not in explosion. In echo. A silhouette of sugar and steam. Faint, perfect ghost. You step forward, hands shaking. You whisper, "Come home." It pulses. The spoon lifts, floats. The dome shatters. Flavor light floods. The echo fragments collapse into your satchel, into the jam, into the parchments, into your very breath. The sixth pudding is alive again, not as object, but as memory, as echo, as living recipe. Your grandmother weeps. Cinnamon kneels, mouth open, tasting the air. Guild bakers gasp, but no one moves. They bow to flavor, to memory, to belonging. You speak, voice steady. We don't need to own it. We just need to remember it. Bake it when needed. Echo it when forgotten. Protect it when threatened, but never lock it away again. You lift the spoon, hold over the jam-lit fragments. You feel weight, not heaviness, responsibility. You set them free. Outside, snow begins to fall again. The archive breathes. The guild houses flicker in windows. Bakers emerge, blinking, hearts changed. You walk out with your grandmother, guild beside you. You carry nothing but the spoon and the echo, yet hold more than ever. You glance skyward. Flakes swirl. You whisper, "Thank you." As the snow settles around your boots, you know this. The sixth pudding won't vanish again. Not really. Its echo lives in every crumble, every recipe, every baking heart. You step forward, guild behind you, spoon in hand, flavor alive, and you begin the walk home. Morning lights the guild in gold. The ovens hum welcome. The smell of flour and damp earth drifts through open windows, carrying promise. Today is no ordinary bake day. Today is the festival of forgotten tastes, a celebration born from that archive pilgrimage, the spoons, the echoes, a day when the guild offers every baker's rescued flavor, not as theft, but as gift. You step into the great hall. The empathy table sits at the center. The sixth pudding spoon rests beside it, radiant. Around it, tables bristle with strange names and hopeful hands. Memory frittata, longing tart, half-kissed cookies, echoed custard. Your grandmother stands at the entrance, greeting people. Villagers, visitors, distant bakers who traveled for rumors of Wensleydale's resurrection. She smiles, her eyes bright. "Welcome," she says to everyone. "Today we bake in memory, to remember and release." You feel your heart tremble. This is what you built. This is the echo made flesh. Bakers arrive, some shy, some bold. Some bring family recipes long abandoned. Some bring notes written in margins, recipes never finished. Some just stand, hands shaking, hoping to find voice through ingredients. You walk with Cinnamon through the booths. He whispers, "Every redemption recipe in the vault is being offered today." You nod. He's right. Not competition. Not for glory. Just sharing. You reach table 7. A young man with a trembling voice and a tray of absent apple pie. He says, "My mother baked it for me once when I was small. I've tried to recreate it forever. I lost her recipe. Today I offer my echo version, flawed but sincere. You take a bite. It tastes of dust motes and dawn and love you never felt. You close your eyes, then nod firmly. He beams. Your grandmother wraps him in a hug. You walk to another booth. A woman brings silent lemon soufflé, says she baked it for her father before he left. No one ate it, no one complimented it. She offers it now, hands bare. You taste. It's fragile, sharp, transparent. You tell her, "It speaks." She nods, tears forming. Across the hall you see a child offering last scone for goodbye, crumbly, dry but warm. You bite. You feel the hush after a fight, the pause before farewell. You look at him, smile. He grins. Later, the festival passes midday. You and Cinnamon lead a gathering at the empathy table. You hold the spoon. This spoon has seen sabotage, theft, war, and resurrection. But today, it watches peace. You pause. We bake not to fix what was broken, but to remember what was lost. A hush. Then applause. Gentle. Whole. As afternoon wanes, a hush falls. The 6th pudding spoon glows faintly. A hush of wonder moves through the hall. You turn to see a tray approaching. The woman from the alley, the one who first gave you the jam jar, steps forward. She carries a small cake. No name, no flourish, just simple. She places it before the spoon, bowing. No one moves. Breath caught, she says quietly, "I baked the whisper of what I could not say." You nod. You lift a fork. You cut. You taste. The cake is humble, small, yet it tastes of belonging, of forgiveness, of tears held too long. The spoon's silence. When you swallow, you begin to cry. The hall breathes empathy. No competition, no judges, just crumbs and revelations. Your grandmother embraces you. Cinnamon nods, face soft. You close your eyes. You see the 6th pudding emerge in wisps of sugar vapor, not intrusive, not demanding, just present. It doesn't speak, but you hear it echo, "Remember me." The festival ends with a ceremony. Each baker names one thing they forgot. I forgot how to laugh after loss. I forgot my mother's face. I forgot I deserved forgiveness. Then each one eats a piece of some forgotten bake, and the hall empties, not with exit but with belonging. After midnight, the ovens are off. The tables rest empty. The hall glows in quiet peace. You and Cinnamon remain last. You walk to the empathy table. Pick up the spoon. You lift it. Light spills over the floor. You feel weight, soft, complete. You say, "We'll never forget you," and set the spoon back. The sparkle dims. Outside, snow begins to fall again. Soft, blanket-like, gentle. You walk home with your grandmother. Guild behind you, now quiet, cohesive, breathing slow. The world feels wider now. It's no longer just Wensleydale. It's everywhere possibility can be baked. That night, you write in the ledger, December 31st. We held a festival, not of triumph but of remembrance. We baked voices, shared echoes, reclaimed belonging. The spoon watched. The flavors lived again. You close it. The pen hovers. You exhale. Tomorrow is new, and you have stories yet to bake. You drift to sleep, dream of ovens humming like lullabies, spoons that whisper your name, and a pudding, gentle but strong, rising in every heart that remembers. The sun rises on January 1st, pale but determined. It creeps through frosted windows into guild kitchens, lighting ovens, warming hands. Today change tastes different. It tastes like possibility. You wake before the rest. You walk through empty rooms, past cooling ovens and banana peels that never got used. You hear echoes, footsteps, laughter, wisps of steam, memories of festival night. The parchment lies open on the empathy table. The poem from London, now blurred at the edges from fingerprints, tears, hope. You rise and set the kettle to boil. You breathe deeply. The air smells like possibility and raw flour. You step outside amid early light. The village is waking. Icicles drip. Smoke rises from chimneys. Children trudge to school with crumbs in their pockets. Old men sweep front steps with sugar-coated brushes. The guild doors stand open. Invitation without sign. You walk to the main street. Shop windows gleam. The bakery storefronts have new signs. Guild post, open recipe kitchen, echo pies served warm. People peer from behind curtains. At the center, the guild's opening display. A platter of mini empathy crumbles and slices of the whisper echo cake. Beside them, the 6th pudding spoon on a velvet pillow, and a new chalkboard. First light bake, all welcome, bring memory, not ingredients. You smile. By mid-morning, the streets hum. Folk you never expected appear. A tailor from Dover with a pie titled Stitching Solitude. A blacksmith's daughter offering iron ember crisp. A travelling confectioner from Scotland carrying a jar of heather honey curd. They place their bakes at the guild display and step back. You greet each one, you taste a fragment, close your eyes, drink in their stories. This is humble, messy, deep. Inside the guild, Cinnamon and your grandmother coordinate. They welcome visitors. They guide strangers to ovens. They whisper soft corrections, not commands. Encouragement, not rules. You move among them, offering slices, blessing hands, reminding people, this is for voices, not perfection. A woman whose hands shake wipes tears. She says, I never thought someone would ask me to bake what I felt, not what I should. Not just share a recipe, but share me. You take her hand. Say, we mean it. At noon, you gather the guild in the hall. You hold the spoon high. Warm glints in its curves. You speak. Today we open our kitchens to the world. Not as conquerors, not as secret keepers, but as custodians of flavor, memory, belonging. You pause. The hall is quiet. It listens. We invite every person in every kitchen to bake their forgotten flavor, to send us echoes, to let memory knead again. We will be the archive, but alive, and the world will taste what we dared to remember. The crowd murmurs. Applause grows. It's tentative. It's real. That afternoon, the guild becomes a relay. Posters go up in neighboring towns. Bring your echo. Letters go out to distant bakers. We hold space for your flavor. Over the wires, news of Wensleydale's revival, not by spectacle, but by heart. Visitors arrive from afar. They bring ingredients unusual. Candied cactus, wild vanilla pods, sea salt smoked with driftwood. They bring dialect recipes, puddings from Guernsey, tarts from Wales, dumplings from the Highlands. They assemble in corners of guild kitchens, make messes, make laughter, make connection. You watch, you breathe, you trust. Evening comes. The ovens glow like embers in a hearth. The smell of baking rises, sweet, spiced, layered. Kitchens hum in unison. Guild, outbuildings, homes. Every open oven now echoes. You stand by the empathy table. The spoon reflects every candle. Behind it, slices of echoed cake, empathy crumble, whisper ingredient trials. Cinnamon steps beside you. He nods once. We've lit too many ovens now to ever go dark again. You smile. The night winds down. Bakers carry their plates home. Some share with neighbors. Some parcel for tomorrow's breakfast. Some send by train to towns beyond. You remain lastly. You clean the table. You place the spoon in its velvet cradle. You close the windows to keep in warmth. Your grandmother appears with a quilted shawl. She places it over your shoulders. We did good, she says softly. You nod. Words fail. Outside, snow begins to fall again, quiet, gentle, blanketing the village in soft white. You walk home, guild lights behind you. The night sky glows pale. You think of what flavor means now, not formula, not hoarded secret, but shared pulse, a collective heartbeat stirred into batter. You pass houses, windows open, steam, smiles, shadows, spoons at work. You whisper, bake well. You reach your doorstep. You stop, turn back once. Look at the guild glowing behind village streets. You step in. In your kitchen, the parchment lies open. The jam jar sits empty but warm. The echoes you retrieved scattered in your satchel. You light a candle. Sit, breathe. Tomorrow, you will write again. Recipe, reflection, invitation. Tonight, you rest. Because you know this. The sixth pudding lives, not because its recipe returned, but because its echo woke every kitchen willing to listen. And that echo will never fade. You close your eyes. You smell spices, memory, hope. You dream of ovens humming across the land, baking voices into crumbs heard at last. You wake at dawn to a knock at the door. You rise before dawn's colors soften. Your bones hum with expectancy. You tiptoe to the door. Outside stands a courier in a coat too big. He holds a large crate stamped, fragile, echoes inside. You sign. Carry it inside. The guild kitchen is quiet, ovens rest. The morning air smells of possibility. You set the crate on the empathy table. Open the lid slowly. Inside, dozens of jars. Jam jars, crystal jars, tin jars. Each labeled with names you don't know, with places you've never heard, with flour-dusted addresses from across the seas, and in the center, a note, typed, foreign. From the guilds beyond, we've tasted your echo. We send ours. Bake between worlds. The Global Bakers Exchange. You lift a jar, named Marrakech Midnight Salted Fig. Another, Osaka Plum Whisper. Another, Buenos Aires Fireside Dulce. Your eyes fill. You call Cinnamon. He appears instantly, bag in hand. Together you carry jars, their scents swirling. Fig, plum, dulce, mixing softly with guild incense, Empyrean hope. You spread them across long tables. Guild bakers trickle in, curious, tentative. The jars hum. Someone gasps. It's the world calling back. You stand before the guild. The jars reflect in eyes. You speak. They heard us. Across oceans, across borders. We offered echo, and they answered. Today, we bake the world's echoes. Not as imitation, not as competition, but as communion. Applause. Gentle, resonant. You divide the jars among the baking stations. Bakers pair. A local with a global jar. Collaborate, experiment, learn. You watch as hands measure cardamom with mango fig jam. As tongues test salt, sugar, cumin. As laughter spills. As questions form in flour dust. In this room, culture meets crumb. Story meets sugar. Memory meets new memory. The first batch emerges, small tarts of fig jam, crust crisp but forgiving. You taste, warm, slightly smoky, foreign and familiar. Tears sting. Another, plum miso pudding, soft, tart, unexpected. Smiles bloom. Another, dulce con crema crumble, rich, caramel, bright. Each bite is an echo, from Marrakech, from Kyoto, from Buenos Aires. It's humbling, strange, beautiful. Outside, the village stirs, word spreads, people stream in. They bring their own jars, from neighbors across counties, from travelers, from distant lands. They set them down, stand silent, let them speak. You walk through the crowd, tasting, blessing, welcoming. Every echo a new world. As midday light filters in, you pause, the spoon in your hand, the jars before you. You say, we are no longer just Wensleydale. We are many kitchens, many stories, many echoes. You hold up the spoon. May it travel with us. May it remind us. We bake to be heard. And now we listen. That afternoon, bakers from distant guilds appear via train, carriage, and ocean steamer. They step into the kitchen, carrying pastries, small gifts, open hearts. You greet them, learn their flavors. Swap stories, swap spoons. The guild expands. The ovens burn bright. As dusk falls, you stand in the open doorway. The empathy table behind you laden with global echoes, village bakes, new experiments. Snow begins to fall. Soft. A slow hush. Someone places a small offering jar beside you. Istanbul spice loquat jam. You smile. The world tastes back. You close the door gently. You breathe deep. You whisper, bake bravely. The morning after the global exchange bake, you awake to quiet. But the silence is full, not emptiness but depth. The jars from distant lands rest on the empathy table like ambassadors. The ovens hum in gentle readiness. Outside, snow glints like sugar crystals. You move through the guild hall. Bakers stirring, tasting, talking. Children sneaking tastes. Elders nodding with recognition. The flavor world has become your front yard. You pause at the spoon's velvet cradle. It glows faintly. You finger it. Promise. Responsibility. Wonder. You step to the front. The guild hushes. You hold the spoon upright. Yesterday we tasted echo. Today we make tradition. Let the Guild of Bakers become more than a local chapter, a beacon, a gathering point for flavors unshared. A home for voices silenced. You pause. The jars around you shift faintly as if breathing. Henceforth each year we host the Echo Festival International, invite bakers from everywhere, offer space, share echo jars, bake, listen, connect. Cheers ripple, not loud but crisp, the start of something large. You walk among stations. Patrons from Marrakesh teach fig glaze technique. From Argentina, dulce de leche swirl methods. From Kyoto, plum liqueur reduction for pudding. Your guild bakers absorb, replicate, adapt, honor. You pause at one station. A girl from Winnipeg lifts a spoon to your mouth. It tastes like winter and longing. She smiles shyly. You nod. Echo-worthy, you say. She laughs, soft, warm, and returns to her baking circle. Midday, the hall fills to bursting. Bakers crowded, ovens flaring, aromas weaving like a tapestry. Cardamom and fig, molasses and miso, rosewater and ginger. The phrase flavor diplomacy is uttered. You smile at that. A traveler from Cairo brings desert date blossom pudding. You try it. Golden, dry fruit sweetness, earth and sun. You close your eyes. Memory flickers you don't know. You whisper, thank you. The baker bows. Your grandmother appears beside you. She claps softly. You've done well, she says. You turn, her eyes glisten. The spoon watches, so do we. You nod. Then she laughs, light and brimming. You realize she has hope again. That's rare. Afternoon, the ceremony of the spoon passing. You stand on a raised platform. The jars and posters make a backdrop. The spoon rests in a cushion. You speak. To bake is to share. To hold flavor is to hold possibility. This spoon, once guardian of one family, now guards a tradition. You lift it. The crowd gasps. You pass it to Cinnamon. Bake beside me, you say. He takes it. The spoon passes through his fingers. It warms. He smiles. Strange. Soft. I accept, he says. The crowd applauds in a reverent storm of flower claps. Evening hush falls. Firelight. The final bake-off of echoes begins. Not competition. Celebration. A circle forms around the empathy table. You, Cinnamon, your grandmother, bakers from across lands. The jars rest like constellations. Each takes a chance. Combine local and global eco, personal memory and shared flavor, tradition and risk. The air sizzles with possibility. You knead dough, measure jam, fold heart into batter. Time folding, past calling, future tasting. Night deepens. The ovens glow golden windows. The hall is alive. Laughter, sighs, tears, hush. Flavor singing. You take a moment, step to the window. Snow falls outside. You see lights in distant windows. Baking ovens in other homes. Smells drifting through air. You realize Wensleydale is no longer alone. It is signal, node, hearth for echoes. You return to the circle. Cinnamon passes you the spoon back. You accept. The spoon now belongs to tradition, not secret. At midnight, you lead all in a flavor chant. Echo to echo, soul to soul, bake the voice once lost. Stir what memory stole. Let bread and pudding unite. Let every heart be fed. The spoon glows, the jars hum, the circle thickens, the world outside seems to lean in. Then the jars glow brighter. One by one they pulse. Flavor threads reach across tables, across lands, across hearts. You feel your pulse echo theirs. You taste memory, belonging, story. You weep, quiet tears. The spoon rises, suspended above the crowd. Aroma floods the hall. It hovers, then descends, lands in your hands. You clutch it. You breathe. The hall falls silent, awed. You speak. Let this be tradition, not for trophies, but for voices, for echoes, for belonging. You step off the platform. Crowd parts. The spoon heavy with promise. You catch Cinnamon's eye. He nods. Respect. Friendship forged in flour and resonance. The jars glow softly. The ovens rest. The hall breathes memory. Later that night, after the festival, you stand outside the guild. The snow glitters. The streetlights glow. The jar's scent lingers like an aftertouch. The spoon in your coat. You turn to your grandmother. "Did we do it?" you ask. She nods slowly, tears in her eyes. You made it live. You walk home together into silence, not emptiness, full of echo. And somewhere in your heart, you taste the first stirrings of what comes next. You awake before dawn again, though your body protests, aches in muscles you didn't know were working. The spoon lies on your bedside table, glinting under moonlight. It has traveled, seen war, delight, resurrection. You reach out, let your fingers brush it. Warm. Alive. Today is the spoon's last journey, not to vanish, not to retire, but to cast its legacy outward, into the world it has awakened. You dress quickly. Outside the snow is crisp. Footsteps echo. The guild is already stirring. Ovens lit, jars unpacked, trays preparing for departure. Guild members gather with suitcases of jars, booklets, crumbs, spoons, maps, routes, echo destinations. Cinnamon appears. He hands you a satchel. "For the spoon's journey," he says. Inside, a new velvet case, embroidered with guild motto, "Bake to belong." He bows, light, genuine. "May it carry our echo to every kitchen." You nod, emotion choking you. You clasp his shoulder. Together. Joy at the guild hall, heavy with fragrance of fig, honey, spice, cinnamon. People gather. Some arrive early, some from distant lands. The smell is an invitation. The jars and echoes wait. The spoon in velvet lies on a cushion in the empathy chamber. Your grandmother steps forward, her voice steadier than you expected when she says, "We send not only a tool, this spoon, but a promise, that flavor, memory, belonging are never lost. May it travel where we cannot. May it echo in kitchens that do not yet know they wait." Tears ripple, jars tremble faintly. The spoon glows. The crowd hushes. You take the spoon, cradle it. It feels weighty, important, an heirloom of spirit. You turn to a map behind you, lines connecting towns, guilds, new nodes you dreamed up over candlelit nights. The spoon's journey is plotted. London, Edinburgh, Paris, Rome, New York, Kyoto, Mumbai, Cape Town, and beyond. You step forward, deep breath. "I send you now," you say, voice strong, quiet. "Carry our stories, our echoes. Let your stir reach kitchens that remember. Let your taste open hearts." You raise the spoon high, a hush so deep you hear snow falling outside. Then you place it gently into the velvet case. You clasp the latches. The world feels lighter. With the spoon case strapped to your back, you lead a caravan out of Wensleydale. The guild trains fade behind you. Friends, bakers, jars, laughter. The air smells of departure and homecoming tangled. Snow crunches under boots. The satchel at your side pulsates with jars and echoes. Your grandmother walks beside you. She carries a loaf of empathy crumble. She says quietly, "Every journey ends at table. Bring them home with you." You nod. You already taste the journeys ahead. The road is long. You pass towns that have never tasted empathy crumble. Fields, villages, border crossings. Each stop you set up a folding table. You open the case. You present the spoon under a cloth. You invite people, bakers, children, strangers, skeptics, dreamers. You offer a handful of jars: fig, plum, dulce, loquat jam, whispered ingredients, rescued flavors. You pair them with local produce: apples from orchards, berries from hedgerows, milk from distant dairies. You ask, what do you remember? What flavor lies lost in your memory? They respond, they bake, they taste. You guide them. A pinch of salt, a sense of intention, a moment's listening. You hand them empathy, not instructions, but permission. You watch kitchens awaken, oven doors open, hands tremble in dough, children beg for spoons, grandparents weep with recognition. The spoon rests in its velvet case, visible but sacred. In Paris, a baker offers a croissant infused with the echo of your crumble. He says, "It tastes like home in a foreign tongue." You laugh. You cry. You pass the spoon. You let him stir a new jar of fig jam destined for Kyoto. In Rome, the spoon rests beside ancient ovens, and bakers dream of puddings touched by Italian lemons. In New York, the spoon visits a loft kitchen where immigrant families mix their heritage with your jars. In Mumbai, the spoon sits atop a table of cardamom jaggery mango. In Cape Town, the spoon watches echo jars swirl in spice markets. Everywhere, you share not the recipe, but the idea. Let flavor belong to memory. Let memory be baked. Let kitchens echo each other. Months pass. You lose track of your own home's scent. But everywhere you go, you carry the echo of Wensleydale, the guild, the empathy table, the jars, the first festival, the last slice, the archive restored. You arrive finally in a small coastal village, a humble bake shop by the sea. The spoon case rests behind the counter. Locals gather. You carry jars from London, from Marrakech, from your own village. You encourage, bake your memory. Make your echo. Let this spoon guide you. They do. The ovens glow. The spoon watches. It fulfills its journey. You know it's time to return. You leave the spoon with the coastal guild. You hand it over with full heart. Their baker cradles it. You place jars and recipes in their hands. Empathy crumble seeds, whispered ingredient fragments, orphaned flavors. You hug them. You step away. The spoon glows faintly in their care. A promise kept. You travel back to Wensleydale. The snow has changed shape. The village glitters. The guild lights glow, doors open, smells drift. You breathe in hearth and belonging. You re-enter the guild hall. The empathy table still stands. The jars await. The spoon, now absent, leaves an echo. You feel its presence. Your grandmother appears, tears and pride. She embraces you. "You carried us well," she whispers. You nod, voice hushed. "We carry ourselves now." That evening in the hall, bakers gather. Jars from distant places now shelf the archives. Kitchens far away are now nodes in your network. You speak. The spoon's journey ends not because its power fades, but because its purpose multiplies. It rests in many hands now, but its echo lives in every kitchen. You pause, heart full. And as for us, we bake forward, always, because belonging is never done. You raise your empty hand. The crowd lifts jars, spoons, fingers, a hush, a promise. Outside, snow drifts through windows. Flavor breaths in air. That night you dream of spoons singing, of ovens humming invisible songs, of kitchens reaching each other by scent and longing. You wake. The empathy table glows in moonlight. The jars whisper quiet memory. The guild sleeps around you. You know the spoon's journey is not the end, it's the pulse. You close your eyes, you listen. You bake a slice in your heart. You awake on the 31st morning in Wensleydale, not with regret, but with clarity. The night snow lies in perfect silence, untroubled. The skies reflect promise. You rise, stretch, and step into the guild hall one last time before closing its doors for the season. The jars rest quietly. The ovens are dark. The empathy table stands empty, save for one final parchment at its center. Blank, waiting. You pick it up. The cream-colored page whispers with possibility. You turn to your grandmother. She waits, hands clasped, eyes soft. She nods. You turn to Cinnamon. He stands in shadow now without the weight of the spoon, yet present. You clear your throat. Today, you say, voice firm but gentle, we bake not for trophies, not for fame, not for competition. We bake, as we always have, for belonging, for echoes, for the flavors we forgot to say, for the jars we sent and the kitchens we awakened, for every heart that waited to taste itself again. You lay the blank parchment before you. You take a pen. The silence deepens. Every eye holds the memory of what has been baked, stolen, resurrected, shared. You write the title in your grandmother's careful script, The Recipe of Belonging. Under it you add, this recipe holds no ingredients, only intention, listening, courage, and warmth. Bake it by heart. Share it by trust. Let every kitchen be its vessel. Let every baker know home is flavor. You step back. The parchment hums softly. It is alive. Then you turn to each jar, each echo, each fragment rescued from archives, each ghost flavor unearthed. You invite each baker, local, distant, present, to come forward and deposit one echo jar, one memory, one flavor they baked, shared, or lost. One by one, they come. The young mother with the apple pie, the seamstress with her rosewater jam, the child with last scone crumbs, the traveler with Marrakech fig, the immigrant with plum rose compote, the visitor from Cape Town with spiced coffee pudding. They place jars on the parchment. They share names, places, words, whispers. You breathe it in. You feel the tapestry of belonging spread across the room. As they deposit, you whisper a blessing. May your flavor live. May your voice echo. May your table always remember that you belong. The jars glow faintly, muted, warm. The hall feels full, not loud, but sacred. Cinnamon leans forward, voice quiet. You made it real. You gave shape to belonging. Your grandmother smiles, tears in her eyes. You nod, breath trembling. Then you guide the bakers to pick up jars, not their own, but from strangers. You ask them, what flavor calls to you? They open lids. They taste. They learn. They nod in recognition, unfamiliar but intimate. They stir, transform, adapt. They bake loaves, tarts, puddings that bear echoes not only of others but of themselves. You walk among them. You taste. You bless. You encourage. You listen. The lines between giver and receiver blur. The jars, once seeds, become stories. Night deepens. The last batch of these cross-echo bakes comes out. Soft breads, fruit breads, crumbles, small puddings, shared plates. The hall fills with steam and murmurs. The benches are strangers' shoulders beside each other. The ovens hum lullaby heat. You stand at the door watching. A child offers you a tasting spoon. You take it. Taste the flavor of a stranger who baked your echo. The taste hums like memory, like recognition. You close your eyes. You smile. You turn, step back into the hall. Raise your voice. Let this be more than a moment. Let this be tradition. Let jars ripple outward. Let kitchens link and echo. Let belonging expand beyond walls. The hall is silent. Then applause. Soft, resonant, full. Later, after the hall empties, the jars distributed, the ovens cooled, you and your grandmother remain. The empty parchment lies before you, now dotted with jars around it like constellations. The spoon is gone, no longer missing, but in each heart. The jars hum faintly. You fold your arms, breathe deep. She looks at you. You baked not to avenge, but to awaken. You nod. You kneel to the parchment. Trace your finger around the jars, the words you wrote, the blessing, the echoes, the belonging. You whisper, may every baker know home, may every kitchen know voice, may we bake not to finish, but to continue. You stand. You take her hand. The night is deep. The snow glitters. The jars glow faintly. The guild hall doors close behind you, leaving fragrance in air, warmth in memory. You leave with nothing but your heart, your memories, and certainty that some recipes never end. They echo, they belong, they live. And so do we.